Hello? Hello? They can see us now. Oh, I gotta recrop my camera. I'm way too... I look tall, and that can't be right. Okay.
Yeah, Warrior didn't exactly have defined stuff either.
No, Warrior had just From the Depths, and nothing else mattered.
Yeah.
Shield Shatter mattered.
Yeah, that was in this set though,
It
wasn't
was
in this
not,
set.
but it still mattered.
Well, yes, I'm talking about, but
Like,
in this set, there was
Ashvane
From the Depths, and there was Nelly, and that was all that mattered.
and Forge and Flame.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, you only ran one copy of that though.
Not always. I mean, the heavy weapon decks more.
Yeah, I mean the weapon warrior that was around for a minute would run both of them, but
Okay. Let me make sure I have a window capture here.
An Obsidian Smith is really good.
that was mini set too.
Wasn't? No. They don't mark what's mini set.
No, I wish
It's
they
just
would.
really frustrating.
I just used the Hearthstone wiki. Or our rating sheets.
Mm.
Okay.
Oh, Snapdragon.
Are you like the
card.
Wolverine meme right now with Snapdragon?
Yeah. There's no good battle cries they've revealed, are there?
Do they have different?
Murloc Holmes.
No, that's not a good card. That wasn't a good battle.
Okay, let's see. They do actually have a different watermark for the mini set.
Oh yeah, they have like a little thing next to the thing, right?
So just stare at the watermark in the middle of the card if you want to figure out.
I can't even see the watermark half the time as it is.
Oh
It's,
yeah.
Jinx,
okay.
you forget we're old and all have glasses.
I mean, I'm blind, so bad.
I thought about getting LASIK, but it would probably last a decade.
Well, your Stone Right could have extra stats.
Also, I feel like it would look so strange to not have glasses. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm so freaking blind though.
I am too. I can see about. This is where it gets blurry.
Yeah, probably something similar. I think they're like -6s.
Yeah, and I need to go to the eye doctor and get because I haven't had an exam since like before the pandemic.
Oh yeah. You do that.
Yeah, and I've noticed it like driving at night. Like, I should really do that. Actually, I should remember to do that while I'm on
Please do
vacation
that.
next week.
Oh god,
Yeah.
wicked good. If you're noticing and driving, please.
Well, I'm
please do
only
that.
when I'm driving at night, which happens like so rarely now because A, it's always bright, and
Yes.
B, I don't leave the house if I can help it. So
You podcast from home.
yeah,
Okay.
I podcast from home. I work from home.
Is today just cards?
Yeah.
We have 2 bullet points in news, and one bullet point in tournaments. So otherwise, we have very many cards to talk about. Yes, you should go to the eye doctor, Grey Logo. Um, okay. Think we're ready.
Hey, Sidisi's here.
What's up, CDC?
Let's see. Do I need to have audition
I should just
open?
call CDC Sid.
Well, depends. Depends on if I'm mad at him that day or not.
Oh, does he not like being Sid? Come on,
No.
the High Wind. I know it's
Are
spelled.
you talking about Final Fantasy VII? That's Sid with a C.
I know, but okay, there is a Sid
Wasn't
in
he?
every
Wasn't
Final
there?
Fantasy.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
And if possible, he always has an airship.
No, you haven't made any disparaging priest. Well, you made one today, Sid, but we'll let you get away with that.
All right. Celestalon has
I
to
mean,
get through all
Hack
the
does
cards in
talk
9
fast,
minutes.
Lessalon, but I don't
Not that
know.
fast.
Yeah.
See, the great thing about this medium that we use is that you can come back and listen to what we say later at your leisure when you want to. So I am going to. We're live, so I am going to press recording if you two are ready to press recording.
I believe I am ready to press a red button.
Let's do it. All right.
Okay. Oh no, that was
Okay.
the history eraser button.
What?
Is that a thing?
That's a Ren Stimpy reference. Sorry.
It's been a minute for me.
Yeah. That's me showing my age. You're welcome.
Man, when was the last time I even thought about Ren and Stimpy? Oh, when I played the SpongeBob Smash game.
Oh yeah, I think I got that with Humble Choice. I played it for like 5 minutes and uninstalled it.
Yeah. I got it for free off of PS Plus. Yes, Bodicus, we have enough disk space. Thank you. Do you want to come on? We're talking about priest cards. You can come on the show. We got this. We're right here.
Yes, just it won't be that much more editing time.
No, it'll be fine. So let's do the show. All right. 3. Are we recording? Recording? Yes.
Yep.
3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Starting the show in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you. Never lose hope.
Here for a chat.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, friend.
Hello and welcome to episode 352 of Coin Concede, Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Wednesday, the 13th. Very spooky middle of the week. My co-host graciously agreed to move the date because I have to work tomorrow and I hate working on Thursdays and then coming home doing the show, so it didn't work today instead, and I get to work tomorrow and all weekend. Hooray. So, I am your host, Ridiculous Hat, from Gadget New York. From Nomergun, Ohio, we have Edelweiss.
Hello.
From Northern Massachusetts, we have Wickgood.
Hi.
And from where you are, listener, we have you. Thank you so much for tuning in, being here with us, listening in. Thank you so much to our live Twitch viewers. Thank you to everyone that left us a review. Really helps other people find the show. And really big thanks to our newest patron, Ole Martin M. I'm sure I pronounced that incorrectly, but thank you so much for your support of the show. And today, well, we're going to do Life and Ladder, but it'll be quick. We're going to do news, it'll be quick. We're going to do tournaments, it'll be quick. And then we're going to talk about cards for a while. So, if you like card talk during reveal season, we're glad you're here. And if you don't, you must be very confused about the Hearthstone content cycle by now. So, Life and Ladder. Steve, talk to us.
Well, I've played Quest Priest when I've been on stream, and I've been kind of taking a break when I've been off stream because I tried to play Quest Priest on ladder Saturday night, and my second game was against a Celestial Druid, and I decided that was enough Hearthstone for the night. So I've basically been going back and forth between Monster Hunter and TFT. Actually got up to like Plat 1 in TFT over the weekend. Just kind of played. It was like I don't know what got into me, but I just kept playing and I kept winning. And I went through like all from like gold, like the Plat 4-0 all the way up to Plat 1. So, and Diamond 4 is like my peak. So it was it's kind of good just to go to a different game and kind of have that, that learning cycle, because like I feel like when, like, not that I know everything there is to know about Hearthstone, but you know what it's like when you're in a groove, you kind of know what to do and you're just kind of figuring out the meta, but it's not like, improving fundamentals and stuff like that. So it kind of felt like it was stretching different muscles. So it was nice to do. And then other than that, we've just been kind of looking for helping the kids pack for camp because we drive them up next week. And this camp does not allow cell phones. So I feel like I've gone back in time 20 years because we've had to buy a digital camera, like not a DSLR, like a digital camera, like the old ones that we had like before we had iPhones,
Like those little Snap Pix ones, the little
yeah, and they're mostly by companies with unpronounceable names that you've never heard of that are sold by third-party sellers on Amazon. And then apparently the children have been going shopping for compact discs, which, yeah, because Maureen was like, well, we should just get them an iPod, see if we can resuscitate one of the iPods. I'm like, you realize that they haven't actually purchased an album ever, right? And I asked my daughter, and she's like, yeah, no, I think my sister saw like a My Chemical Romance CD in the basement, but other than that,
Are they going to summer camp in 2003? What is happening here?
Oh no! I told you I've fallen through a time warp. I don't know what's happening. So now we're going to find to Newberry Comics to buy used CDs to load onto an iPod, and then getting an SD card for a digital camera that we're apparently buying from Amazon Prime. I don't know. It is
Your children are taking a trip to my childhood.
Yeah, and meanwhile I'm playing Diablo 2 Remastered on my Switch. So I've just gone back in time 20 years, except I somehow have teenagers. So it's been a very confusing week is what I'm trying to say.
Is there an age maximum on this summer camp? I want to go.
I mean, you could. You'd have a hard time playing Hearthstone for the month or two that you'd be there, but without a phone.
We're at summer camp. Egyptian War, my friend.
Oh. Yes. Oh my goodness.
You just bring 52 playing cards, and just those jacks get mutilated by the end of the summer. But it is worth it.
I was never allowed to start with cards at fencing camp. I was not allowed to start with cards. It was great.
Were you supposed to be fencing at fencing camp?
Well, yeah, but during lunch break, we would either play Magic or Egyptian War. So Egyptian War, it was no, you have to slap in. Didn't matter. Crushed them all anyway.
Sounds like
competitive
a Egyptian War circuit.
Yeah,
would have.
Yeah,
been.
and then I went to overnight camp at Oberlin for tennis, and I found some people that could actually match me. So I got to start with cards. It's that classic thing of leaving your little bubble, right, where you're the best, and then you finally face other people. It happens a lot with card games too. Well, regular card games. Collectible card games. That's what I mean. I guess Egyptian War is the regular card game there.
I mean, collectible card games are the regular card games, to be fair now. So
you have to
if you're
you
playing with a
collect
deck of
the
cards,
cards while you're
poker,
playing
it.
Egyptian War. The whole point is to collect all the cards. It's a collectible.
That's true. Got to catch them all.
We should clarify for anyone that is under 30 that is listening to this show, Egyptian War was a game. I don't know if this was just a Northeast summer camp thing, but at every summer camp I went to in the Northeast, this was a thing. 52 playing cards, where it's just you put cards down in order, but if you put down a face card, then your opponent had X number of flips from the top of their deck to get a face card of their own. Jacks were 1 flip, queens were 2, kings were 3, aces were 4. And if there was ever a pair of the same cards in order, whoever slapped the pile got to pick up the whole thing. The goal here was to end up with the entire deck. I'm sure that was
everyone had their own regional rules that made it more complicated and stuff, right?
You had to ask sandwiches or no
on.
Sandwiches. Could you slap on sandwiches? Right, it's a big deal.
Or some played with a 10 will stop a face card, but it doesn't make the
dumb
next
and
person
stupid.
have to. It basically just allowed for longer games, right?
It's not in the spirit of Egyptian War. Anyways, we're already on a digression too long about a card game that I played 25 years ago.
We did say we are going to talk about cards on this episode.
It's
so
true.
We are.
We're on brand.
I'd also heard it called Egyptian Rat Screw, which
yes,
I don't know.
Okay, that's why I didn't recognize it. Okay,
yeah,
gotcha. All right.
I felt bad for the rats, so I just used the more tame name. But yes, Egyptian Rat Screw was also yes. I don't know where that name came from, but I had also heard it before. Yeah. Different time back in the day that apparently Steve's kids are going to experience. So
Yes.
I will Amazon you. It's Prime Day. I will Amazon you a deck of cards for them to bring with them. They can come armed with this knowledge, and they can make
Oh.
friends and or enemies.
Well, I was going
Have
to say,
you-
let me
how
know
long
where
have
to
you
send the
known
mix
me?
CD.
Yeah. Like how long have you known me? Do you think there are not multiple sets of decks of cards in this house for me to send to them? The only one I'm not going to send to them is my deck of cards with magic card backs that I apparently got from like a Wizards of the Coast thing like 20 years ago that I found in my basement a few months ago.
Oh yeah, that's probably worth a bunch of money.
It's not as much as you would think, but yeah.
I mean, you're not going to.
It's worth more. It's worth more than an average deck of cards that I'm
Yes.
not giving it to them and go take up to camp. We'll put it that way. Yeah.
Well, this is a wonderful trip down memory lane. Edelweiss, what have you been doing? How about you?
So I have continued to do my sort of 4th month of a cycle, play a different game a bunch, and this time that is Dark Souls Remastered. And I did a silly thing where I thought pressing the home button on the Switch paused the game,
Oh.
and it does not. So I was in the middle of like doing a bit of farming for a rare material to upgrade weapons called Twinkling Titanite. And I was wearing this helm called the Helm of Avarice, which increases drop chances. It also slowly deals you damage. And so you sort of just, I was farming for this material. You kind of incidentally get a lot of souls. I had maybe 100k souls. And I pressed the home button to pause at a bonfire, a safe location to go and do some chores. And I came back and I was like, why did I die? Wait, why did I die more than once? Turns out the home button on the Switch does not pause that game. And since the Helm of Avarice just slowly drains your health, while I was cleaning the bathroom and clearing the filter out on my dishwasher and sweeping the floors and all that other stuff, my Dark Souls character just died and then revived and then died and then revived and died over and over again. And you only get one shot, one death to go back and reclaim your bloodstain and get back all your souls. So that 100k souls were long gone.
So, what did we learn?
The game doesn't pause.
Okay, we learned a few things. 1, save and quit. 2, don't trust Dark Souls. 3, if you're involved in Dark Souls, don't try having a life around it. That's mostly it. Those are mostly the 3 things.
It's
and
all right.
avarice doesn't
Fortunately-
pay. There you go.
oh, it does though, because in addition to getting more of that material, something that doesn't go away, any items you pick up. So all the purging stones that I got that I'm not going to need, but they're worth 1,000 souls each. Those at least I held on to those. So we got some of our stuff back.
See, that's what you're learning. You need to keep your souls like invested. You can't have liquid souls.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't just be walking around with 100k souls liquid. You got to spend that stuff.
You need to get those keep those tied up in real estate investments is what you need to do.
Oh, but anyway, yeah. Apart from souls, in terms of life stuff, my wife and I have started the process for IVF, which involves some injections. One of which has to be done very early in the morning. So I am dying a little bit inside to wake up at I'm not like coherent enough to know what time it is. I think 7.
Is the sun up?
The sun is up, but it's
Okay.
like either 6:30 or 7:30 in the morning, which I know some people do on a regular basis. I do not. I have a remote job with a starting time that is whenever. Usually call time is 3 p.m. It's rare if we have an esports thing that starts in the morning. So I usually wake up at 10 a.m. And yeah, it's been a little rough because it's not like I just automatically adjust my going to sleep earlier. Like that
No.
doesn't just happen.
No, you still go to bed at the same time. You're just
So
tired and complaining about it all day.
The candle's just burning at both ends right now. And I really hope we can use the trigger shot soon because there's going to be another ultrasound on later this week. So hopefully. But yeah, if I keep having to wake up that early, I'm going to just like whittle away. I don't know.
I'm not going to say you get used to it because I think that'd be a lie. I'm going to say you get numb to it.
I mean, it's probably good to get used to the sleep deprivation, given what the intended outcome of this whole process is. So
that is a
you're
good
just
point.
kind of getting a head start on it.
Well, but we will have alternate shifts, right? I will be the night shift.
Oh, because that's how you think babies work. No. You're both on call all the time. Don't you worry.
Yeah, that's a good plan. Talk to me in a year and let me know how that worked out.
Fortunately, I mean, what would be for every little thing, but like, my mom currently has been spending several months with my sister while in her early time of having a kid. So I imagine she will do something similar for us, except she won't have to stay at our house. And Rachel's parents are also like, this is why we came back to Cleveland. So we have tons of support. Our best friends are our landlords. So they're going to pitch in. We are truly living the kibbutz dream. So
all you need is some oranges and you'll be all set. I mean, I guess if you're on esports time anyway, then if you're already going to be up in the middle of the night, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
But,
as long as like someone is able to take the day shift, then I should be able to get sleep at some point.
Well, good luck with that. It sounds like that's on par with the difficulty of Dark Souls. So, we'll see how it goes in both cases.
Probably harder, but we'll get there when we get there.
Much like
No
Dark
pause
Souls,
button.
Parenting. Yeah,
No
exactly.
pause button.
Parenting also does not have a pause button. So yes.
Yes. Well, so I hit Legend with Quest Rogue in Standard. Quest Rogue. It's cool. You get to start as Rogue when you start the game. And I don't know. We've talked about this meta being very flat in terms of power level. I am not super compelled to play right now, but when I do, I don't always play Standard, but when I do. So I think it was on this podcast last week where I looked up Renathal Nagamage. Renathal Wildfire Nagamage. Was that this show? I think that was this show, right, where I talked about it. I got to have a Naga pop-off turn again. And let me tell you, I missed it. It was cool. It was fun. There were a couple more games where I played where I had the Naga pop-off turn and lost anyway. It's like, okay, all right. But I got to do it again, and it was all right. It was okay. I tried a bunch of other stuff. I played a little bit of Wild, always just in time, posted a cool Pain Lock. Like, you just play 6 Giants, and you don't even play Dark Glare anymore, and then a bunch of Disruption cards, then a bunch of broken self-damage cards, but no quest because it's banned. It doesn't matter. You just play Giants and Netherons or whatever over and over again until your opponent dies, runs out of stuff and dies. I played against a Renathal Odd Warrior, which I guess if the only card that matters is Tank Up, then the extra 9 cards plus the Renathal just is completely irrelevant because the only thing that matters is Tank Up.
And you get that right at the beginning of the game, too. You're all set.
I kind of envision, like, I figured the start of game effect, just like they stand in line, like behind the stage in American Idol, they come out one at a time. Because it's the Renathal first and then the Baku. And, like, they just, I was thinking about how many of those could you get going for Hearthstone the movie. Probably get quite a few if you throw in a Malkazar and a Cthulhu and all that.
Well, can you do Cthulhu? How does that work?
With Odd, I have no idea.
You could do it with Gen, right? No, but you wouldn't be able to Renathal.
Or like the point
Malkazar.
is Tank Up.
So it's, if Cthulhu triggers first, then Baku is fine.
Right.
I haven't tested this and I'm not going to, but I'm sure someone that's listening to this has done this. Tweet at me. Let me know. I want to know. Because if Cthulhu triggers first, then Baku and Malkazar and Renathal can all work. Though, if Malkazar triggers first and puts a bunch of even legendaries in your deck, then maybe you turn off Baku. I wish there was a way to stack rank.
He's kind of a trickster, that Malkazar.
Yeah? I wish there was a way to sequence your start of game effects, but it's probably for the best they don't encourage this kind of behavior. Anyways, it didn't matter. I played like 9 8/8s, and they eventually ran out of things to do because they were Odd Warrior, and I killed them because I played double Battlegrounds Battlemaster because we have a 40-card deck. So, got there, fun deck, didn't lose a lot of games. The most played Hearthstone mode I'm playing right now is Mercenaries. Because I wanted to do the task chain, I wanted something else to do. It cleared a bunch of my quests. I like pressing the button, didn't have to pay too much attention. Was a good time. Except I didn't realize this until I got in there. The Mercenaries collection is a nightmare. It is so incredibly buggy and crashes all the time, and I didn't realize quite how bad it was, but it's pretty bad. Like, routinely will just freeze and crash, or you will save something and then press back and it won't respond for a while, and then it will drop you back at the campfire. Your changes may have saved, your changes may have not saved. I don't know what the deal is here, but it's notable that, like, I did not realize quite how poor it is. The gameplay is fine, and, like, I'm enjoying it and doing the tasks and whatever. It's fun, the PvE stuff. And then I did most of the tasks, and then I looked at a point where I could grind more to get my new mercenaries to a reasonable level, and I said, I'm just not gonna.
Yep.
So when I get their task chains, I'll do their task chains. And the new task system is so much better. And I got Athissa, so like I can actually like reasonably level Athissa. But I have to do it for all of them, and there are still some clear things going on here, but I mean the gameplay's still there, and I still enjoy the gameplay, just as the systems around it that still need to work. But the new task system is so much better, and actually like playing Mercs is fun still, so I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
Popped into PvP a bit as well, and even though I don't have everything leveled up, I'm able to try some new things. It's been wild to see some of the developments, like with Elise. Like Golden Monkey comps can be super terrifying. If you like don't know exactly what you have to do, suddenly everything has 25 spell damage or something. It gets pretty crazy. So it's been fun to see the developments there.
Yeah.
Lepton in our chat, who is a somewhat the winner of not the most recent Coin Concede listener series, but the previous one. She is also a leaderboard player at Mercs, and says the meta right now is some of the most fun it's ever been. Trigor is very, very powerful, but not in everything. There are a lot of options out there. I'd be curious to experiment with it, but we've talked about this many times before. From where I am now in Mercs to get to that point is impossible in any kind of reasonable amount of time. But it's good to hear that it's still interesting.
Not unless you're going to grind for a while and you just have other things to do. So
it's the summer. I work at a movie theater. It's impossible. Trust me.
Yeah. I did before we move on. I forgot to talk about my one wild game this week, where because I had a channel redemption on stream from Delicash to play Big Priest in Wild, which has changed a lot.
Oh, I saw that game. That was awesome.
So it's changed to be more of a combo deck where you just run Blood of Cahoon, which is the 9/9 that summons a 5/5 copy of something in your deck, and Neptalon. So I got Illuminate on Idol of Yasharaj, which let me go Idol of Yasharaj on 4. I got one Palm Reading on 3, Idol of Yasharaj on 4, which summoned the Blood of Cahoon, which summoned the Neptalon. It was against a Renathal warrior, so they just played from the depths on 4. And I played Gift Illuminance on my Neptalon. And fun fact, when you have more than 2 hands on the board, every time that a Neptalon attacks, all of the hands go wherever the Neptalon went. So I did 32 Wind Fury damage with the one that could go face. And then I had a 10/10 Blood of Cahoon, and they died from 40. So, and then I retired the deck because that's never happening again. And I just want to have that one pristine memory to enjoy because I know that it's all downhill from there. So that's the end of my Big Priest career in Wild, but it was a fun one game.
You're not going to do better than that.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. What else do I have life ladder? Oh yeah, rank 70 Marvel Snap and getting there. I've never gotten the legend equivalent in that game. The leveling up takes so long, but I'm enjoying it still. The progression system is well, you've probably heard about this from other places, especially as deep as I am into the game. It's not great, but gameplay's good. So, quick games, easy. Installed an emulator on my PC so I don't have to drain my battery all the time.
That's a good idea.
But also, just marinating in reveal season, so we should boogie through the stuff that isn't that so we can talk about cards, because, it's card talk season. Let's go.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
There's not much going on right now. There are new skins in the shop. Remember we talked about the Fire Festival bundles. The third one is available. This is Lunara, Morgul, and Nemzi. Really fun. Edel, I'm sure you bought this already, but we talked about it
No,
last week.
I caught the last two. I have to refrain. I just looked at these. They're good, but I need a line somewhere.
Yeah.
I just got a new monitor. It's coming in like a couple weeks. So
Yeah, these aren't really as good as the last batches anyway. I mean, they're still good. I'm sure Nemzi's always Nemzi, so I'm sure the sound, the voice lines are good, but they're not quite as awesome as like the first couple batches.
And then also, you may have noticed a patch rolling out, a big one on desktop on Monday, and then Tuesday and today there have been staged rollouts on mobile. There is a patch. The patch notes are non-existent because you shouldn't notice anything different. Because what they're changing a pretty deep part of the client. It's how things are rendered. They're switching over to the Unity rendering pipeline. So the majority of installs I've seen have been pretty low impact in terms of bugs, if none at all. However, if you have a pre-2012 Mac, your client doesn't work anymore. Maybe you can set it to low graphical settings, but they know about it. They're working on it. If you force it to low, it might work. But this is only for 11-plus-year-old Macs that do not support the Metal rendering engine. Metal works fine. OpenGL, not so fine. So
I mean, I'm surprised that it even runs on anything that old. I remember when they moved to like the version of Unity that supported Metal, and it made a big difference because it used to. Yeah.
And live update in chat. Possible fix coming from Celestalon. Thanks, Celestalon.
Yeah.
Is that the meeting that you're in right now? I won't tell them that you're multitasking. No
I
one
mean,
has to
that's
know.
dedication, though, right? Like to fix something. Like I mean, there's a certain point with older devices where it's reasonable to just say, look, it's just not going to work. And I remember Diablo 2 being broken on Macs for a long time, just because like something changed in one of the libraries or something, and I was sad, but that was what it was. So I mean, it's good that the team's actually like working on trying to fix that, because that sounds like a horrible task for probably a small number of users, but I'm glad that they have that they care enough to do that. It's awesome. It's not even, it's not there's no shade there. I think that's great that they're willing to put in that effort.
There's also this crossed my desk today, and I passed it along. If you're on any Mac or Apple operating system, iOS as well, the filters per set in the collection manager don't load. Everything else works fine, but when you click the little box that slides out with the different buttons to pick which set you're looking for, it's just a blank box on both iOS and on macOS right now. Also, they're aware of it. Also, they're working on it. Just some small byproducts here and there, but I play mostly on PC and Android, have noticed zero differences. Performance is a little bit better, but that is why you are getting a patch in the App Store or the Play Store or whatever. That is why you got a big patch on PC. They are specifically going for doing the big engine changeouts at a time when they're not doing any other changes to the client. So this is the only thing that changed. I mean, air quotes, only thing, but it's so far behind the scenes, the average user shouldn't really notice anything, if at all.
Yeah. You just notice the download, right? And then you're like, well, what changed? And
yes,
the answer is a lot, but you shouldn't notice anything.
Yep. Except for theoretically somewhat better performance overall, because it's using integrated rendering as opposed to whatever it did before. I don't know enough about software to act like I know anything about this, but
I don't know enough about graphical engines to help you out. So
if it works, we're happy, and if it doesn't, they probably know. So yeah, that's where you got that patch from, and theoretically just install it and go about your day. And if it doesn't work, then tag me on Twitter and I'll pass it along. Oh, good. That makes me feel better. Celestalon says he doesn't know either. He just makes the cards. Yeah. All right. That's all news that isn't cards. So let's go to tournaments so we can talk about cards.
It's the grand tournament.
So we had Lobby Legends over the weekend. The meta seemed to be pretty dominated by mechs, Greasebot in particular. A lot of divine shields, and pretty much every mech lobby had everyone going, power leveling to go for mechs. And if it wasn't there, then it was a little bit more balanced. But it was an interesting day. There were 3 players on day 1 who had Eudora, who tripled into Golden Shifter Xeris. It happened 3 times. That is unusual to happen once. So that is definitely a thing that happened. We had a top 8 on Sunday. Kid 5, Alucard, Satellite, MXJF, Peter Babbitt, Butterfly, Reba Pusa, and Citro were your top 8. And it was actually coming down to the wire quite a bit. There was game 5, I believe, where Alucard was the only one who was in a position to put the lobby in check, needed to get any position other than 8th in order to put the lobby in check, and ended up taking 8th in that game and allowing some other players to have another shot at it. But there were actually 6 players in the last lobby who had the lobby in check, and came down to Kid 5 winning consecutive lobbies, lobby 7 and 8, and winning the tournament. Alucard then did come in second, ended up, it looks like, with the most points overall, but wasn't able to pull that last lobby down to be able to win. So it was a pretty exciting day. Raven and Nina Snoop did a good job of casting. I think there were some concerns about the spectating a little bit. It seemed like there were a lot of rapid fire changes throughout the matches. Sometimes switching away from from a fight that was in progress going to a fight that had just finished, and and making it a little bit hard to follow. Hopefully that's something that they can start to work on, because I know that was something that they seem to have gotten down, but it definitely does depend on who's manning it, and what I can't be an easy thing to do to make sure that whatever everyone is looking at is the most important thing right then, and making it so that when the casters are talking, they're actually talking about what's on screen, and it hasn't just changed underneath them when they're trying to make a point. So I'm sure that that's something that as you do more of these types of events, that'll become less of a trial and error thing and more of get some best practices there. But overall, it was a good event. We have some more. We have GM Last Call this weekend, so that'll be everyone who qualified, along with some of the Masters Tour winners, to try to get a spot in Worlds. So that'll be happening over the weekend. That'll be on the Hearthstone YouTube channel. And Tice's tournament will be he had the qualifiers a couple of weeks ago. TwitchCon in Amsterdam is this weekend, so the finals for that will also be happening this weekend. So there's going to be plenty of competitive Hearthstone to watch. I believe there is also qualifiers this weekend. I should double check that as I'm saying that right now. But that would be the last weekend of qualifiers for they're starting tonight. The last weekend of qualifiers for Masters Tour 6 will be happening tonight as well. So I'll have some updated data on offcurve.com/Masters Tour, probably starting Friday morning. I'll be updating it throughout the weekend. And you'll have a pretty good idea between that and whatever's happening in GM and in Tice's tournament of what's run, even though those are going to be 4 deck conquest instead of 3 deck conquest.
Yep. There's also a tournament. I totally forgot about this until Madman mentioned it in the chat. Mentioned it last week. There is a community gaming tournament with a qualifier slot with an invite going on this weekend. You can sign up. The link is in the show notes over at communitygaming.io. But it's a $1,000 tournament with an empty invite. So all the instructions are there. It is, I believe it is open to anyone on the Americas server, but it is run by a Latin American community gaming group. So instructions on the page are both in English and Spanish. So yeah, read whichever one you want to read. And there was, speaking of Tice, there's this fun Hearthstone Legends YouTube video that's coming out right now that is there's a premiere in progress that's showing all of his tournament stuff in the past. It's the 2nd episode. pretty cool stuff. They look at the
Oh, I hope
journey
I
of
hope they
type.
show the freeze mage mirror with those Kaka. They
Oh,
have to, right?
yeah, they have to. That
Yeah.
is maybe the most famous Hearthstone game in history.
Yeah.
Trying to think of another one that's anywhere close, but like that's got to be one of the most famous Hearthstone games in history. Yep, they do show it. It's right here.
Okay, good.
About
I couldn't imagine they wouldn't.
about 2 hours into the VOD, which is already at 6 hours and still going. Jeez, there's a lot of Hearthstone to watch
Wow.
here.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it's a lot of Tice if you're into watching a lot of Tice. And finally, I think I forgot to mention this last week, but we just wrapped up our last Coin Conceit listener series for this expansion. Big congrats to Jolt C for being the winner of our Coin Conceit listener series, and Jinximus for making it all the way to the finals. And that's it for tournaments. We're 35 minutes in.
Can I add one thing?
Go ahead.
It's so weird getting to last call. It's the end of an era, and like we don't know what's happening next. But yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be bizarre because this is for a Worlds that's happening next year, right?
I think November, is that, or December rather? It was December last year.
They call it 2023 Worlds.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Maybe it takes place this year. I mean, it's kind of a weird system. But yeah, this is the last GM's thing. So I don't know. I'll definitely be watching it.
Yeah.
I described the subtitle on, I think it was on Doctor 3 that I was on last night, which was a fun time. GM, the weird one. Because I have no idea who's playing. I don't know what the structure is. But I bet it'll be interesting because you can only do this for the last season of GM, because otherwise the whole system it was designed to do the same thing all the time. And this is the different thing. And different is cool. And so I like that, but it can only exist when you're shutting it down, because if it's just a one-off, then it's not part of a system that's designed to do the same thing all the time. So,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and it's also the last week of like open qualifiers for any of the Masters tours this year. There's going to be no more open qualifiers after this weekend for the rest of the year. So it's going to be a very different competitive landscape after this weekend, and we'll have to see what that looks like. I mean, hopefully there will be some more community tournaments to kind of fill the gaps.
Well, one thing is, we just talked about community gaming, but I think part of why they do things on Wednesday is because the weekends have always been taken. So there's more opportunity there for them to shift over to the weekend if it's not being taken up by open qualifiers anymore. This was an issue that I ran into when I was running things for Nerd Street, was just like finding a time of when to do community stuff. So hopefully we'll see someone be able to kind of swoop in and fill that void, at least until we figure out what's happening next year.
Yep.
Yeah. Really weird that for the next 6 months there's just like kind of nothing. But such is the nature of transition years.
Yep.
Anyways, shall we talk about cards? Let's go.
Sure. So we have gotten many more card reveals since last time we chatted, and even without the full week this time, right? We're a day shy. And something that has people, I think, reasonably concerned is, well, I think it couldn't be embodied more than what we see here for Demon Hunter, and that is just these compact packages, sort of 5-card deals that we kind of had in Voyage a bit, and we definitely have right now. Demon Hunter, we got the Relic Vault first. Your relics, you play this turn, cast twice. And we were like, what are relics? Is it Queen Azara? No, those don't count. And so there are these specific, I guess, coded cards that each time you play one, it upgrades all future relics that you play. This includes if you get them off of a Noggling, which 2 of them you can. It also is included in the legendary. It plays I think it's a relic and you infuse to play all three.
Yes, so we should read what all these relic cards are. So we've got 3 different relics. You can kind of view them. It's not quite Librams. It's not quite Galakron. It's right in the middle. Not quite like original Cthulhu. So I'll read Relic of Extinction, for example. 2 mana, spell, no spell school. Deal 1 damage to a random enemy minion twice, so it shoots 2 1 damage missiles. Improve your future relics. So what Improve Your Future Relics does, it's a player buff that gets stuck to you as a player. And every time you play a relic, it says the next one, add 1 to whatever thing in the text box is a number, is a digit. So this says 1, it's the numeral 1. When you look at Relic of Phantasms, 3 mana, rare spell, summon 2 1/1 spirits, improve your future relics. The 1/1, those are numerals, they become 2/2, or 3/3, or 4/4. Every time you play one of these, the next one you do will be a number bigger. Or like Jade Idols. How about Jade Idols? A lot like Jades, actually. Relic of Dimensions. This is the good one. 5 mana, draw 2 cards and reduce their cost by 1. Improve your future relics. The 1 is a numeral. So the next one reduces your cost by 2. Then by 3. Then by 4. So they keep going up. The Relic Vault will cast the relic twice, which means you get 2 upgrades in between the 2 casts of the spell. So if you were to do the minions, you would get 2 1/1s and then 2 2/2s, and then your next relic would cast for 3. If you were to do on Relic of Dimensions, the card draw one, which is a good one, even on the base copy, you draw 2, reduce them by 1, then draw 2 more, reduced by 2. But that's probably not what you're looking to do. You're probably looking to play maybe a Relic of Extinction on turn 2, a Vault on turn 3, then you coin out Dimensions on 4 with the Vault activation. Draw 2, reduce them by 2, draw 2, reduce them by 3. You drew 4 cards, and you reduced by a total of 10 mana. That's pretty powerful. Zymox is the legendary. He is the relic, the relic payoff synergy, whatever you want to call him. The relic Liadrin. Artificer Zymox, 8 mana, 8/8, Demon Hunter legendary. Battlecry, discover and cast a relic. Infuse 5, cast all 3 instead. They are in a random order. And so that means the first one will already have the upgrades you had before, then another one with another upgrade, then another one with another upgrade. So, for example, if your relics are at 4, and then you Zymox, a fully loaded Zymox, say, pick the worst order, let's assume damage last, minions first, you would get what? 2 4/4s, then draw 2, reduce them by 5, then deal 6 damage to shoot 2 6 damage missiles that can hit minions only. That's pretty good.
It's ultimate infestation.
If you get to that point, you're not gaining any life. You're not going face. But you are drawing cards, reducing mana, making minions, and removing stuff, theoretically. You don't really get to control it, but it's a lot of things that are going on here. And Infuse 5 might seem like a big deal, but it's an 8-drop. And you know what's really good on turn 7 is Z-Lag. And you know how many bodies Z-Lag makes? Is 5. So if they deal with your Z-Lag on 7, then hey, your Zymox is ready.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, the bodies relic is going to give you 4 bodies over the. I mean, Zymox may not be in your hand at that point, right? But those are going to give you bodies. You also, Fino said you can discover off of the school teacher. You can get a Noggling who plays the 2 mana or 3 mana relic, and those he says will count into because it'll upgrade. Because it doesn't say anything like you cast or whatever. It just says upgrade your future relics. When I read this at first, and this is why I should not look at card reveals before I've had my ADHD meds in the morning, I thought this only upgraded the one with the same name. It didn't occur to me that it was like Librams, where they upgrade all of them. So that makes a big difference in terms of what you're expecting Zymox to do when you eventually
old school
do this
players. Old school players, it's like Jades. It's exactly like Jades. Every time you do a relic, the number goes up. So it is just the number goes up, but on the spells instead. And if we're expecting Relic Vault to work twice before you Zymox, then that means you're already starting at the first relic that Zymox has as a 5, then a 6, then a 7. So it almost doesn't matter what sequence those are there. You're getting 3 large bodies, a little bit of removal that you can't really control, and then a couple cards that you can probably play immediately that turn. You think about how powerful Sigil of Alacrity or Caria was just for saving 1 mana. We're saving way more than 1 mana here. Cithino is looking fairly spooky. Or also, if your first dimensions hits either Zymox or Bran, you can do stuff.
Yeah. I think the Relic of Dimensions is really what sticks out to me in terms of spookiness here, because that's pretty much the thing that you want to vault as much as possible, right? It's fine to vault the other stuff because it will upgrade your Relic of Dimensions, and then you want to vault your Relic of Dimensions to draw stuff for very, very cheap and just do silly things. Card draw, of course, also synergizes with Infuse because you want to have the stuff in your hand so you can start infusing it. It's, Relic of Phantasms, also great for infuse things. I think the one you're going to want to be sort of doubling the least most of the time is Relic of Extinction, because it's reactive, not proactive. So that's usually going to be the thing. I mean, I wonder if sometimes, since it says random enemy, do you need an enemy in play to play it? Or can you just
You don't with Devouring Plague, so I would imagine this would be the same.
You can play Devouring Plague with nothing?
Yeah, you can. I've done it plenty of times to advance the quest and Quest Priest.
So I would not be surprised if sometimes you just go Relic of Extinction on 2, particularly against something slower, because you're just like, this is the bad one, I'm going to get it out of there. Look, sometimes it'll be clutch, right? Sometimes you'll do it, it'll be a clear whatever. But I think, mostly it's just like you get it out of the way before you play Vault, and then your Relic of Phantasms, and then Dimensions. So it's a 9-card package that is just like all within itself, and I feel like it's I don't know, it's both really interesting and kind of will probably get boring after a while, because there's a few directions you could go with this. You mentioned Cithino. You could go just put this into a Fel deck. They're not Fel spells, but it's a good draw engine, and so you just sort of have this, like, Relic makes you boards, so you sort of have stuff to do that works really nicely, and then you're discounting things, which is great for Cithino and the Fel stuff, and then you can end with Jace, right? So you have these 2 different curve toppers. And then you could also do it in something tokeny because of Relic of Phantasms, and so maybe if there's another Infuse card that we get in whatever is going to be the other 5 cards of Demon Hunter, then you could have some synergy there. I don't know how to feel about it, because it is very much like Soul Shards, and those were very powerful for a little while, and then we stopped playing them because more powerful stuff had to be made.
Yeah.
And they nerfed the Dustbreaker, and then they rotated the Blade Dance. So, there was some artificial intervention there.
Yeah. And this is also like a lot slower than Demon Hunter usually goes when it doesn't have an OTK to draw towards. Like, if you're playing Relic Vault on 2, like, that's your turn, right? And if you're playing the one that's going to summon the 1/1s, if you're basically playing Vanguard, but without the 2/1 that your opponent has to remove, right? So you're like spending a few turns kind of ramping up, and it's a matter of, like, do you have enough other stuff to get you through to that point? Because this is also, like, the difference between this and Jace is that Jace very often ends the game, right? Like, you generally will draw a couple cards, you're gonna clear the board, and you're generally gonna have, you maybe do like 5, somewhere around like 5 or 10 face damage, and you're gonna have like 15 attack most of the time when you play Jace. This is going to do a lot, but it's going to be a lot more like Ultimate Infestation, where it's going to set you up. And maybe the board you get from drawing the free cards is enough. But it's not always going to be. So you're going to need another win condition on top of that if that board doesn't stick. Because again, if you're getting to turn 8 to play this, I mean, assuming that you don't discount it from one of the other relics, right? But let's just assume that you're getting this on 8. Like, your opponent should have a way to remove that probably if you're getting that deep in the game, right? Because you haven't actually like done anything proactive other than put some bodies on board.
I mean, in my mind, this is a 9-card package that you play to do stuff and reduce a whole bunch of cards. And the things that you're reducing are what you're killing them with.
Yeah, probably. And it's just a matter of like, what are those? Because I don't know that you have enough room for like what's in, like, you're not going to take like 9 cards out of Fel DH right now and then have a deck that's going to be nearly as effective, right? So it's like,
Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
What if you add 9 cards? Can you think of a
Well, then-
10th that we'd have to add?
Then
Maybe
you're not
there's this
getting-
little spider tank? Huh?
Then you're not drawing.
And you're
these as
not
often,
getting
though.
these consistently. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just saying, 9-card
I'm not-
package
yeah.
in a 30-card deck, and we only got room for one more. Isn't that coincidental?
I think the directions that I see the most potential are sort of something tokeny, right? Which we've like gone up to the edge a little bit, but then, Drekthar was just better. So if we get some, real stuff to do with those sort of wider boards, I really want to see a good infuse besides Zymox in Demon Hunter to take advantage of. I'm making a bunch of spirits, and we are still playing Vanguard, right, which gives you 3 for infuse. So I'd really love to see within the remaining 5 cards like 1 to 2 really good infuses. So we'll see.
Yeah. And we have 5 more Demon Hunter cards to see. Who knows? You can really tell in so many different ways that they designed this set a year out from Stormwind. They're giving us the package, but they're not letting it kill our opponent right away when we pull it off.
Yep.
And last year, they specifically wanted us to kill the opponent when it happened. This is accelerating the second half of the game, the late game board state, but without saying, okay, and then the game's just going to be over right now with what you're already doing. You have to find something else to do. Now, if we're drawing 2 cards, reducing them by 5, and then making some 6/6s, probably going to figure it out. We'll probably get there. But I'm really curious to see what the other cards are here. Is this better than current Fel DH? Maybe. I don't know. But it at least is interesting, and I'm curious where the other 5 Demon Hunter cards go, because so far this set, it seems like most class sets are 2 different ideas that are fleshed out over 4 or 5 cards, sometimes with one throw-in in the middle that doesn't really correlate with anything specifically. So we should see at least another Demon Hunter deck sort of thing. Maybe big demons, maybe small demons, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that when Demon Hunter tries to pick a size, it doesn't work, because tokens and big both have failed miserably multiple times. So it's got to be you got to be flexible there.
Yeah.
So next we have another hunter.
We do. Wait, shouldn't we talk about the
different
Druid
shade of
cards?
green.
Let's talk about the Druid cards. Okay,
Wait,
so now we have
Did I
Hunter.
did I miss those?
So now we have Hunter. We just talked about the Druid cards. We got them
Okay.
covered.
Okay. You're making me. You're gaslighting me. Like I thought there was something that I missed in putting in the notes.
The druid card's in neutral.
Good.
Trust
Again. Okay.
Again. Remember, druid cards, you filter for 7+, and they're in neutral.
That's why Druid's brown and neutral's like gray, almost brown, right? Because
Yeah,
they
exactly.
look similar enough.
Yeah,
Look,
the
I told
Bloodborne
you
color
last
scheme.
week, Hedge Maze looked like a neutral location.
Yeah, we haven't gotten. There are still 9 Druid cards left to be revealed, so Lord knows what's going to happen there. I'm guessing we'll find out more tomorrow because they don't have any more classes. This is the last one where they got to show us something.
I'm guessing 4 of them have to do with death rattles.
Only
Seems-
4?
seems
You
a
hedging
good-
your bets?
Seems a good bet.
Well, maybe
Yeah.
3
Well-
death rattles and 1 battle cry that triggers a death rattle.
Well,
or
see,
something.
because the
I just
other
wanted-
5 are going to be a different package.
I just wanted to say hedging your bets. I wanted to make the pun.
Ah, right. Yeah, of course. So we have a Hunter Legendary revealed, as well as a Stonebound Gargan. So, well, let's do the legendary first. We have Huntsman Altimore, a 7-mana 5/4 battlecry. Summon a Gargan companion. This is an animal companion by another name. We're in Nathria. We're in the underworld. So, they're not demons, but they're not our regular animal friends. So, infuse 4, summon another, infuse 8, and another. Yeah, it's basically baseline. You get a 5/4 and an animal companion. You get the first infuse, and it is 5/4 plus to my side. You get the 8 infuse, and it's a 5/4 plus Call of the Wild,
Yep.
Yes.
which cost 8.
Well, it
They
originally
nerfed
cost
it
7
at
until they nerfed it.
No, it was 8. They nerfed it to 9. 8
that's
was
right.
busted.
Yeah.
Because you would go high
Because
main
you could
coin
hero
call.
power.
Yeah.
High
Well,
main coin
or-
call was the nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if you can consistently infuse this, I think honestly, even once, pretty good. This is also the class with Hydralodon and Mountain Bear. The question is, how many big drops is too many big drops? And I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you also get a 5/4 with it, right? So it's like, it's not
Yeah.
like you're just paying 7 mana for like To My Side. You're paying 7 mana for a 5/4 and To My Side. Like,
Yeah.
that's fine. And they're going to be unique animal companions. What the one thing that is relevant from them having different names is that will pollute the pool for Revive Pet. So if you're doing big beast things, that is sometimes relevant. I think at this point in the game, you probably don't care, but it's something that I mean, if you're already playing Hydralodon, you're already used to that, just getting heads or getting, Azamat,
Right.
stalks or whatever.
I mean, I wonder at what point do we just cut Revive Pet because it's just too high roll, right? Like you either have to just play it really early or it's going to be pretty rough. Maybe it's just a fine rate no matter what, even if you're effectively revive an animal companion. But
It's for Sunken Saber.
yeah, I mean,
we play Revive Pet for Sunken Saber. So, like, as long as that's the thing
Yeah,
that we're
sure.
reliably doing, that's why we're playing
Yeah.
that card.
Yeah. And I mean, you run things like you'll run Slither Spear, you run Naga's Pride, you could run Wound Prey if you really want to get, the 1/1 off of it if you need to get infused triggers. And like, again, I think like you said, like Infuse 8 is the dream, but I think Infuse 4 is plenty fine for what you're getting, because you're going to get 3 bodies out of it. One of them most of the time is going to charge, and then one of them is either going to taunt or make that do more damage, because it's always Huffer or whatever the Gorgon version of Huffer is. So, yeah, and I think this is something that if you're doing big beast, I don't think you have to think that hard about it. You probably just find one of the cards that feels bad more often than not, and you replace it with this, and you're probably okay.
yeah.
I think
To
even
my
in the
side,
Castle
it's
Kennels
really
deck,
good.
even in the Castle Kennels deck, which I think is mostly just Face Hunter, you might still play this just for a curve topper. I don't know if we're gonna end up in a standard where you top the curve at 5. I'm pretty sure that most Hunter decks are gonna want access to Kodobane Tavish Altimore, right? Like that is a perfectly reasonable high end, and maybe Hydralodon too. Even at if you're not harpoon gunning, which you probably are in any Hunter deck, you still probably play Hydralodon. So I don't know. We're talking like 4 cards here that cost more than 4. I think this would be one of them. The question is, how easy is it to infuse? How frequently do we go wide? How wide do you actually have to get here? And is this the sort of thing you could put into a more aggressive deck that would otherwise want to finish things off with burn? Do you ever run this and aim shot in the same deck? I don't actually know. But you might. You could. Depends how spell heavy we're getting or how minion heavy we're getting after the set comes out. Because if we stay minion heavy, then we want something like Ancient Krakenbane, where we're dealing 5 damage for 3 mana. But if we don't end up having that many spells, we're mostly just sticking with Doggy Biscuit and maybe a quick shot here or there, maybe a Ramming Mount. Probably want Ramming Mount because that gives you 2 bodies for this. Maybe we don't have enough spells to activate a Krakenbane. Maybe we want to go a little heavier, and then maybe this is just another board that often buffs your board or gives you a taunt or deals damage or some combination thereof. I'm curious to see how easy it is to infuse for big numbers and how often we'll want to keep this in our hand and how often that will end up not being a mistake. because it's also entirely possible this is too much ask, and it encourages players to either play suboptimally or throw the card back, and then it's a bad top deck. And if that's the case, then it ends up maybe not working out.
Yeah, but I mean, you also run things like you've got Selective Breeder, you run Ramming Mount, which lets your minion drop a minion when it dies, right? Like you could play Spring Paw if you really want to. That's back in core. We haven't really seen it see play, but you could run something like that if you wanted to. Like, I don't think you have to really go nuts here. I think that no matter how you build the deck, when you top deck it, it's sometimes going to feel bad, right? Like that's just always going to happen with Infuse. You can't really deck build your way around like an empty hand top deck or an empty board top deck rather. But I don't think that like you have to like, you know, the question of the with these cards that I try to ask, and this is going back to like the off curve card review days, is like, what is this asking for me? This is asking me to run minions in Hunter. I think we can do that.
Does seem pretty likely, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's reasonable. Gargon, the Stonebound Gargon, I'm a lot less impressed by. The 4-mana 3/5 beast with Rush. Infuse 3 also damages the minions next to whomever this attacks, which we will call Cleave for the rest of this episode. The way we build Hunter decks right now revolves around Pet Collector, and you do not ever want to pull this out of the deck because it will never have Cleave.
Yep.
Yeah. I think this is sort of a much more interesting card for a Face Hunter variant, right? It's a beast. It's definitely something that you want to hit with the buffs. Definitely, like, even though it doesn't benefit from the rush thing, Castle Kennel is still quite good on this if it's infused. And it's infused 3, so if you've played stuff the first 3 turns, it, you know, could be infused, right? You could even have the early Naga start, right? Slither Spear into the 3/3s. So it gives potentially a Face Hunter a way of having like a comeback mechanic that, you know, would still maybe be threatening. So that's kind of where I see it. But yeah, I agree. This is not something that you want to be pulling off Pet Collector.
This is a card you take off of Amalgam of the Deep sometimes. That's basically it, right? It's a good card that you can get in Amalgam of the Deep. It'll do something. You'll probably be able to infuse it if you're doing it that way. There's not really any other deck that feels like it wants it. Like you certainly don't want this in Quest Hunter. You don't want this in Big Beast Hunter because of the Pet Collector. Face Hunter, it feels like it's too slow. Like a 3/5 are not really the stats you're looking for a Face Hunter. Though I guess sometimes if you need to get through taunts, maybe that's something you might need to do. But I think you're gonna get this off of Amalgam of the Deep, and you'll be happy when you pick it.
So I think that one of the things that we forget about Rush is that it allows the minions you currently have to go face. And if we're continuing in this line of board-based meta, we haven't seen the ones yet. I expect we may not until the dump, and then we may have a couple of Rockstar 1-drops that are going to be like, all right, we can face Hunter again. And so if we have some early stuff to play for this to be infused, ideally on curve, maybe on 5, I think something like this lets a Face Hunter fall behind a little bit on board and not be completely borked, right? To be able to have some play against decks that maybe win the board a little bit earlier, right? That kill your Trogs or whatever you did early game, kill your couple of minions that you got off K9otron, because we just need some more solid 1-drops, and K9otron just, I mean, it's already good. It gets way better if we can play a few more solid ones.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I'm looking at for this card.
I guess the way I look at it is that, you know, what helps to go face a lot more is Smothering Starfish.
That's so much more niche, though, right? In terms of, yes.
I mean,
I
Steve has seen the priest cards in this set, so he's already planning on Starfishes, which I think is not unreasonable, at least the first couple days. Also, you know what'll be fun with this Gargon? Dire Frenzy.
Not exactly a Face Hunter direction, but yeah.
We're getting ambitious here, but you could do it. I don't know. It's a weird card. A 4-mana beast that you have to keep in hand and don't want to summon from your deck is at odds with what we're doing right now, but like maybe. I don't know. we also have 7 more Hunter cards to see, so without the support, this doesn't make any sense right now, but
Yeah.
Altimore doesn't really need support, which is why he stands out.
I mean,
All right.
Spring Paw is pretty reasonable support all on its own.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah, and Wound Prey is a reasonable card that you run in Hunter sometimes. So
Ramming Mount is 2 minions, technically, but
Yep.
theoretically you want it to not die. I don't know. Anyways, we have more to come on Hunter, but we got one mage card, and we're going to be talking about this one for a little bit. Solid Alibi, a 2-mana mage frost spell. Until your next turn, your hero can only take 1 damage at a time. So
yeah.
So 2 mana for Cariel Cosplay.
Animated Armor, was that the card in
It was.
in Karazhan? Was
Yep.
it Karazhan?
Yes, Kara. So this gets replayed off Dawn Grasp.
Yep.
Probably
It
in your
gets play-
runes.
Yeah, it's gonna be in your rune enough. It'll happen enough from there. Even if you don't play it in a deck, it'll be there.
So initially, I had thought, oh, hey, we get to use Cold Case and Deathborn for frost spells in my multicaster quest mage. I think you can just do Frozen Touch and Solid Alibi, and you're kind of good to go, right? You got Flurry as well, and you're no longer short on frost spells.
This is super annoying. And there are a lot of really subtle, clever ways that they're influencing the design of the set to be aggressive and board focused. This is one of those cards. There's a lot of power in the 1s and 2s in this set. So far, we've seen a lot of power in the cheaper cards. Solid Alibi is a response to that. Now, it does nothing against a board of Iron Deep Trogs. Literally not a thing. But if you're against a board of big priest minions, for example, you know, something,
Or Silence Dragons from a Prestor Druid.
right, or you're getting imp slapped, and you want to just slow down a board of big imps, then yeah, sorry, Steve, I know you didn't see that one coming.
Oh.
Yeah,
I mean, Imp did get a whole lot easier all of a sudden, but
it
we'll get there.
did, yes. We won't jump ahead. So Solid Alibi is how you it doesn't do as much against wide small boards, but it stops Bloodlust completely. It stops really big minions. If you play this with a Cold Case, you just froze 4 minions effectively, right? Because you take 4 damage, you gain 4 armor. It's the same thing. And Dawngrasp recast it. This makes Ping Mage better, right? This makes Wildfire Ping Mage a lot better. It makes any kind of defensive mage that isn't Big Spell Mage a lot better. It makes Big Spell Mage better too because it's just in runes, and also Big Spell Mage gets the location. But if you're playing some kind of mage that wants to slow the game down to do something, this effectively will be like a Frost Nova in many ways because your opponent either chooses to develop into it and play into whatever your wide removal is the following turn, or they choose not to, and then you just skipped their turn. So it's like a Frozen Buckler in a lot of ways. Pretty powerful card, I think.
Yeah, it's not quite Ice Block because you can't just like leave it there, right? Like it's
Good.
more like time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you
But
can't
it's more
preload
like-
it.
Yeah, but it's more like Timeout or Cloak of Shadows where you need to time it. But we've seen both those cards be incredibly impactful in the right decks, and I would not be surprised if this is too. And maybe if the David S. Pumpkins Mage needs a little bit longer to get going. Maybe this is something that you put on, you summon a bunch of skeletons, you put this out, and you say, deal with this or you're going to die. And if you deal with the board, you're going to die anyway, right?
I think
Yeah.
Mage benefits from this set primarily from just having an influx of good frost spells to be able to multicaster for 3 extremely consistently, and to have that on top of AI, or if you're playing Nagas, you've got the other draw spell there. So times when Mage can churn through its whole deck, a little bit scary. And so now I could totally see something like a multicaster quest mage happening, Could totally see, yeah, just the regular wildfire mage happening because you much more consistently fill up your multicaster to find your hero card and get that ramping up quickly. Mage is benefiting a lot from just good frost spells, regardless of sort of what they do.
Yeah. And there's still a fair amount of from hand damage, right? Like
Oh
there's still
yeah,
like
I mean,
Demon Hunter still can like just hit you for 10 or 15 repeatedly, occasionally, right? And like, you know, sometimes your opponent has a big spell mage and they just rip a rune and it flings a pyroblast at your face and you die, right? So like, or Bloodlust has made its way back into Shaman. Like there's a whole bunch of like from hand damage that can burst you down from like 22, 30 life. And even the Renathal decks, like they give you a buffer, but that's not enough to, you know, stave a lot of that off. So having this as an extra way to just kind of buy yourself a turn a lot of times is what those slower decks need, especially if there's any sort of like a combo that comes out, then that's usually where that ends up finding its way. And it, you know, sometimes the one turn is all you need to just get set up.
but I thought you meant mage still has a lot of from hand damage, which is true.
Using its own, yeah.
As long as they have ignite. I think that's something that's kind of spooky. As long as mage has ignite, you don't have to fatigue if you don't want to, right?
Yeah.
You throw an ignite in there and you just have damage forever.
I mean, you could even, if fatigue ever comes back, right? Then, you know, that's something that, you know, you can take one fatigue damage and your opponent takes all of it. If there's, you know, anything that ends up, you know, drawing both of you a bunch of cards, or you know that there's something coming that's gonna draw you both a bunch of cards
On
you
their
know,
turn,
or, you
not
know,
on your turn. It would
yeah,
still be...
but I mean, well, yeah, if you're doing it immediately, right? Like I'm thinking of like Cold Tooth, like an Oracle, like in Wild, right? Where you're playing, you're making both of you draw on the same turn, and you take 1 damage and they take 1,000,000.
Seems less likely to happen, but
Yeah,
I mean, while like mage is not currently constrained by number of sequential turns they can take, so
that's true.
who knows? Like fatigue will happen to one player because the other player doesn't get turns anymore. But that's neither here nor there. Anyways, I predict that people will be annoyed about this card. I think that's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
But also, I think this is a single card that enables a mage archetype that can be something new that we haven't seen in a while because you need a powerful defensive tool, and this is not beholden to any particular shell. So it'll work in Quest Mage, it'll work in Ping Mage. Those get a lot better. It'll work in Skeleton Mage and David S. Pumpkins Mage.
You still didn't watch that clip, did you?
I did not, no. I thought about doing that a bunch of times after I forgot about it. And then I remembered, and then I promptly forgot again. You know how it goes?
It's volatile mage. They're volatile skeletons, volatile mage.
Okay. Whatever. It's blue mage. Anyways. So, moving on. Paladin. We got one Paladin card. It's good. Promotion. 1 mana epic spell. Give a Silver Hand recruit +3/+3. To recap, 1 mana +3/+3. It has to target a Silver Hand recruit, but is 1 mana for +3/+3. Thoughts? You are muted.
Whoops. Yeah, I mean, it's a very good rate. The 1 mana is kind of clever because you could put it in a quest paladin. I know.
You said it.
I know.
You said it. Everyone check off your bingo cards.
I feel like it's Pee-wee's Playhouse and we just had the word of the day.
So, I mean, a deck that has to do with Silver Hand recruits. I mean, this is the kind of thing I like because it can work for that, but obviously Silver Hands could exist outside of that sort of deck. They're just the ones that get the upgraded hero power for doing it. So it's a nice, aggressive card, you know, another way of making our Silver Hands into 4/4s and relevant. I like that they're also separating sort of this stuff from like the hero, and they do this for Shaman too, right? That we'll get to. I think it gives interesting choices to incentivize not doing the hero because the hero changes your hero power. So we'll see what wins out, because ultimately the hero comes down on 8, and these are things that benefit the hero power that you start the game with. Steward and promotion both, and shaman a similar thing. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question is, do you want the game to be over if you're playing Dude Paladin before you can play Cariel? Right? We haven't had a Paladin like that yet.
Well,
in a
of course I
while.
do. But if the game's not over, I sure want a Cariel. It's like it's a
Yeah.
single card that is approximately one Cariel, and the other 29 cards in your deck can be anything else. They can be all dude related, and then Cariel's just there, and that's worth like You know what that card does. I don't need a reason to do that. You need a reason to take it out of the deck.
You could still have Stand Against Darkness and Sous Chef, right? So there's going to be other ways of getting Silver Hand recruits.
It seems extremely likely that your Paladin deck will have a Silver Hand recruit in play at some point, especially with Sous Chef and Steward. And if you just have a Steward and no other synergy cards, then your next hero power is going to make a 7/7 with this. On turn 4, Steward, it dies. Turn 4, 7/7. Big.
I heard those are good.
I didn't think it was possible for them to make a more Paladin-y card, but this is the most Paladin card I've ever seen. Silverhand recruits, minion buff, big numbers, kind of boring. Okay.
Cost 1.
Cost 1. Well, they don't always do that. But yeah, but I'm going to play this. This is how you make people want to play Conviction decks.
Yeah.
I want to play Conviction in a deck that wants to play this. You can't...
Remember when that card cost 1?
Don't
Remember,
look, we're
remember when
we're
Battle
thinking
Master
happy
cost
thoughts
5
tonight.
at the same time? Yeah. The
Yeah.
original
And
combo deck of
Crab Rider-
Stormwind was Paladin stuff. Just hit you in the face.
And Crab Rider kept Wind Fury permanently. Yeah, those were the days.
I think that was a different meta, but yes, Crab Rider was also very good. And still good to this day. They reverted it. Anyways, you can't promotion something on turn 2. There is, I guess you could coin a hero power, but probably don't do that.
Yeah.
So this isn't going to be this isn't Cold Blood on the Firefly on turn 2, right? That's not going to happen here. You're not going to get hit for 5 on turn 2 unless you coin a hero power and it sticks for some reason, which maybe against Warlock, I don't know, but probably
Oh man,
not.
that is the most telegraphed line ever, right? You're against a class that doesn't have a hero power that pings, and you go coin a hero power, and they're like, oh gosh, I hope I have any removal because
otherwise,
Anything
double
will
promotion
kill it.
takes 7.
Killing the coining a condemned to kill the 1/1 from the hero power. Yeah.
Well, no, they have to coin the hero power. You just naturally condemn.
Oh,
You condemn on
yeah.
turn.
So you'd already have the 2 mana. Yeah, but even so, yeah. I mean, I guess if it's Quest Priest, you're okay with it, but you don't want to do that anyway.
I don't anticipate coining a Silverhand recruit to be correct most of the time. It could happen in some games. Could happen. Ironically, if you're in the mirror and they don't have a 1-drop, what does Paladin do about a minion? Nothing. So maybe in the mirror you just 7 them, and that's it. And then you get righteous defense, and then you lose. That could be fun.
Well, and honestly, even if it telegraphs and they're like, okay, I drain sold that or whatever, right? Like, I think as long as they're not a class that has a hero power that can deal with it, it could be reasonable because it's just like, okay, deal with it. Deal with it again. Deal with it again. You know it's coming. Are you going to waste premium removal on my hero power like every turn? And then once something sticks, you go double promotion or whatever.
I mean, in Wild, you can play your 1 mana hero power and then, oh, that's even Paladin, so never mind. Yeah, never mind. I'll stop now. But you might coin it in Wild just to be able to have 2 that maybe will live through a hero power. But yeah.
Anyways, this is a powerful card. I will note the art is confusing because they are celebrating the chef, who I am pretty sure is not a Silverhand recruit. I'm very proud of the chef, but the person
They have chefs in the army.
But it's I know they do. They got to eat, but the person that is being celebrated is not a Silverhand recruit. Anyways, I'm happy for them. Whatever. All right, priest Steve. Which priest archetype do you want to talk about first? Stats or
I mean,
stealing?
let's talk about stats first because stealing's probably going to take us a little while.
Is it?
Okay.
It might. Yeah.
There's nothing to talk about.
Well, that's why we're going to talk about it. So I guess we could start with Boone of the Ascended, which is a 4-mana holy spell. Or is that what you have on the screen, or you have Pelagos on the screen? Okay. So Pelagos is one of the we got both the legendaries this week. So Pelagos is the legendary. It's a 3-mana 1/6. After you cast a spell on a friendly minion, set its attack and health to the higher of the two. So in Wig Priest, this is a 4-mana 8/8.
Unless you devour, in which case it's larger.
It's even bigger than that. Yeah.
Yes. So
Devour makes this like ginormous. Yeah.
Important to note, Pelagos's thing is an after effect. So there aren't too many cards this matters, but one of the cards is his immediate companion card. If something cares about what his stats are during the resolution of the spell, just read the other card now. Boone of the Ascended. 4 mana, holy spell, epic. Give a minion +2 health, summon a Kyrian with its stats and taunt. So Pelagos is a 1/6. If you Boone of the Ascended Pelagos, it makes him a 1/8. Then it summons a 1/8 taunt. Then the spell finishes resolving. Then Pelagos' effect kicks in. It looks at the attack, it looks at the health, it says make them match whatever the biggest number is. Then it makes Pelagos an 8/8, but the minion is a 1/8 taunt. It is a little weird, but probably better for the health of the game, that the text on Pelagos doesn't matter for this card, which it has Pelagos in the art and is clearly paired with him to be curved out. But if it worked the way that I think a lot of people assume it works, that would make 2 8/8s on turn 4. You can't do that. Please don't do that. So they didn't. They won't. It's also worth noting the stats on the Kyrian are definitional. That's the word they're using now to describe this. They're white numbers, not green numbers. It's like Rattlegore or whatever else. You can't silence the stats away. They basically, at this point, I don't think any created token has silenceable stats. They just changed how they do that. This is along with that, but we're going to specify anyways, because Smothering Starfish, you're going to see a lot of those on day one, so, just prepare yourself for that.
But I mean, Pelagos, you just put it in Wig Priest, right? Like you've got like the 29th and 30th cards, which are like Queen's Guards or Selena, Bloodfeather or whatever. Like you just put that in there because you're running, you're always going to have something that's going to make it an 8/8 and then it gets bigger. I don't see, again, I'm not thinking too hard about this one. That seems like the place it's going to go. I'm not really seeing it in any other, like you don't really want this in a Control Priest most of the time. Maybe you do, but you're generally not running enough buffs. Certainly Silence Priest would be kind of not what you I mean, I guess you could play the Silence Priest.
It's an after effect.
As long as you're silencing him, then don't silence him, because it's an after effect and that'll turn out poorly. But as long as you're silencing other things, it could work in Silence Priest too.
Well, because you still would run things like Shadow Word, Devour, or Bless, right?
Yeah.
So like there's stuff to target him with, and Boone of the Ascended I think is much more likely to be played in the Silence Priest type deal than in Naga Priest, because you don't want too many spells there. But
Madman has a great point in chat. Focused Will is awesome with this card.
Oh yeah. Well, and on like Humongous Razor Leaf or any of those.
Or Starfish.
Focus Will on Razor Leaf is 11/11. That's large.
That's a lot.
Also worth noting, Bless
and
becomes
Unhurt.
2 mana, give a minion +2 health. That is what Bless does with Pelagos in play. Pelagos makes every spell into a blast. But this is why I like Pelagos, because it's not Wig Priest, it's Buff Priest now. Because with the location, and with Pelagos, and with Wig, you have redundancy finally, where if you don't draw Wig, your deck doesn't have to be terrible. You can have curves that actually work with the location or with Peli and anything else, and you'll kind of be okay. This is not quite High Priest Amit, but it's in the ballpark. Right? Your minions have to be reasonably statted to begin with, but it's actually High Priest Amit for your spells, not for your minions. And I like that a lot. Very easy to silence, very easy to deal with freeze effects. But if you have an unchecked early board as a priest, then you're going to run away with the game. But also, if you have an unchecked early board with a priest right now, you're going to run away with the game, because that's what happens when you don't kill the minions. Priest has turned into somewhere between combo Priest and Libram Paladin, and Pelagos is one of the pieces along with location that just make the deck functional on your draws where you don't have specifically Serpent Wake, and I really like that.
Yeah, and if your opponent isn't actually running double Starfish, 6 is a ton of health for a 3-drop.
Oh yeah.
It is a lot. Like they had to nerf like Evil Miscreant from like a 1/5 because it was too much, and it wasn't even doing anything on board.
Right.
It was just
It had
sitting
already
around.
done its thing. It was
Cabal Acolyte too, which I think is the
Yeah.
example. Like, this doesn't have taunt, but yeah, it's clearly designed to synergize with spells. Clearly going to be really powerful on curve, but any kind of non-damage based removal is a nightmare here. Great Hall you don't want to deal with. Righteous Defense you don't want to deal with. Wind Chill, obviously Snowfall Guardian, obviously Starfish. You can multi-strike this away, but it hurts. It's not free. You know, there are answers here, but yeah, this devalues damage-based removal, and it's okay for different kinds of removal to be better, and sometimes it isn't, and you need to make concessions like running Starfish in your deck. I think it's...
Yeah.
This is the kind of card that I want to see. If you want to make a metagame more powerful and faster, which they do, you print cards like this. There are cards like this all throughout the set. And so I think that we will really feel the difference in power level and speed after this set comes out, even though it won't be Stormwind, and a card like Pelagos is a good indicator of why.
Yeah. And I mean, just like from a like class identity standpoint, right? Like we've been saying for a long time, like make the hero power matter, right? And the way that you make the hero power matter, your hero power other than just like healing your face is by giving you a reason to keep the health of your minions up, right? And so this is something that will incentivize it because it says set the attack and health to the higher of the two. Really, it's going to set the attack equal to the health because your minions are generally defensively statted. So this flips it for you in a way that it lets you take advantage of the hero power, makes you want to use it on your minions to keep them healthy, to make those spells much more impactful when you play them. So I love the design of it. It's not like we don't have to think too hard about where this can go. There may be other uses, but just like Naga Priest, this is a 1-card swap to get this into Naga Priest. That's an immediate upgrade to the deck. It's easy to envision.
I'm ready, Edel. I'm marking it down.
okay. Hello, Yagaboo.
There you go.
Curious at it. Yeah, so I think it's really interesting to talk about stuff like Boone of the Ascended and how they're doing these white numbers, because as you say, there's a lot of incentives for Starfish, which I don't love, right? I don't love Starfish being everywhere. The thing with Reinathal has been people are like, well, I need to add 10 cards. We'll throw double Starfish in there because it's just good for reasons. But the white numbers complicate that a little bit, right? Because you've got the rogue location giving you really big ghosts that you silence and they're still big. Boone of the Ascended gives you a big thing that you silence and it's still big. And something I like with Boone of the Ascended is if you are doing something like the Silence Priest and you get a big minion off of Boone, and if you don't care about taunt, you can play the 1 mana, silence and deal damage equal to the power.
Whispers of the Deep, yeah.
Right, yeah. And you're not gonna lose any stats. So if it's been high power because of Pelagos or whatever, then yeah, it's still gonna do a bunch of damage. I don't know.
Man, we could run this
Stuff like
in
that
a
is
deck
cool.
with Twilight Drake. You remember we like day 2, we had that Dragon Priest where we were trying to do with like switcheroo and it still did the attack and the health, and we would get like a really big bud on the Twilight Drake, and then it would have like a ridiculous amount of health, and then you just throw any buff on it, and all of a sudden it becomes a actually it's it still would silence it away, so it's an after, but like you put any buff on it and all of a sudden that's like a 15/15. What's up, right? Like could be fun.
It's a cool card.
Yeah.
All right. Harvester of Envy. I'm gonna go refill my water, Steve. I got wireless headphones. I can hear you. You just get started. Go ahead. I'll be back.
So I love this card. I don't love they're giving it to us now.
Hold on. Let's tell the people what it does. Gotta tell the people what it does.
So Harvester of Envy is basically if you had a collective Sigh as a card.
Okay.
That's what this would be.
Steven.
Yeah. Okay.
Harvester
it's
of Envy is a
3
3-mana 4/3
it's a
priest
4/3.
legendary. It
Yep.
says
Yeah.
after you play a card copied from the opponent, steal the original. It's worth noting it doesn't have to be from their hand, it can be in play. So if you make a copy of a minion, then they play the minion, then you play the copy, you yoink it across the board, you mind control it. If it's a quest that's on, like, if it's a quest line, it has to be the same stage. But if it's a quest, you only have one slot for a quest. You take theirs, there's no room for it, so it's destroyed. Same with the weapon, same with objectives or sigils or whatever. Hero cards do not get taken. Hearthstone does not condone identity theft. So hero cards do not get taken. But anything that you copy when you play it, if the other thing is a card in a zone where you can have a thing, you get to take that copy. Or take the original. In some cases, it will destroy the original. In most cases, it will just bring it over to your side of the board or hand.
Does Faceless Manipulator count for that?
Nope, that's transform.
Okay.
You have to copy a card and then... Because the way copying a card works... And people have this question about copying a card. Pretend that the Hearthstone cards are physical objects. When you copy a card in Hearthstone, you take a specific card, like you're holding it in your hand, and you split it. You make a copy off of that. So if you Madame Lazul a person's hand, if they have a minion and the exact... Like, if they have 2 copies of a minion in hand, one of them has +1/+1, one of them doesn't, you'll see both, because they're distinct cards. Physical cards. You pick one to make a copy of. Then when you play the copy, you take the one that you copied. If you, like, Eluciad... and you copied 2 of the same card, like 2 of the same card name, they're 2 distinct cards. You play the left one, you take the left one. You play the right one, you take the right one. It doesn't do name matching. It matches a specific card ID. So the same as think of a physical card that you're looking at in the real world.
Yeah. It's it's a little bit complicated because, like, we don't have that much that actually copies cards in standard right now. I mean, there's nothing in neutral, and you have Draken and Operative. You have Psychic Conjurer, which it got moved back into core. You have Copycat, which is seen exactly 0. Copycat and Soothsayer's Caravan, both of which have seen exactly 0 play. Because they're very bad. Now, I don't think that this one legendary makes you want to go run Soothsayer's Caravan. Like, I will try to make a lot of priest cards work. Even I have my limits. So I would expect we've seen not a lot of priest cards, and all of them have been buffy. So I would expect that we're going to probably see at least another couple of steely cards, because you don't print a legendary like this and not have some sort of support, right? Like, I mean, you could. They printed Maestro of the Masquerade last year, and then they didn't give it support until Null got printed. But I have to imagine if they're printing a legendary like this, then there's going to be support for it based on what we know right now at 9:24 p.m. on on the 13th of July. There's not enough available to make playing a card like this worth putting a slot in your deck.
I hope this card is bad, because I do not ever want to deal with this.
Yeah.
There's just the way that the getting copies has been done has generally been you get a random thing. So I will be really unhappy if the random thing that normally would be annoying just because they got a copy is further annoying because it ruins my whole plan because they actually steal the card from me. So I'm sure they're going to print something that supports this to some extent. I just hope that it lives in fringe milkshake priest world and that it does not enter into sort of the main competitive, because I really, really, really don't want to deal with it.
They don't have a great track record with that, though, lately, with those kinds of cards.
So remember how I said you can tell they were making the set while Stormwind was going around. Disruption! Here it is! There are answers. There are cards that impact things in your opponent's hand. There are ways to take things away from your opponent. Everything has an answer, because they made the set during Stormwind, and This is not a great anti-combo card, but it's something. And you can really, really tell that it mattered to them at the time. We've got 5 more priest cards to see. Good bet that 3 of them will probably be Steely Priest related. I hope it's not too good, but I hope it's something, because this is... Steely Priest has never been the way to play Priest if you want to win, but it's always been a thing that people like doing anyways. So, I'm not saying make it the best deck in Standard. Please do not do that. Please do not come close to doing that. Please do not even think about doing that. But if you make it a viable Tier 2, Tier 3 archetype, people will play it way more than they should. They'll have a good time with it. People will complain about this at the level of Ticketus, and then I'll just play 1-drops and kill the people playing this card. I'm about it. I'm here for that.
I mean, they buffed Thief Rogue until it was viable, right? Like, or they made it viable originally, and then they nerfed it, then they buffed it back intentionally to make it viable. So, and chat's pointing out, and I should have mentioned that too, Murloc Holmes technically does synergize with this. Again, good luck to you. You know, getting Murloc Holmes to go off. But if you do, yes, this will be a bonanza with this card. But I don't think that that's really what we're aiming for with it.
I will say as well that it's an effect that's hard to get to happen more than once unless they're cheap cards that you steal, right? Because after you play a card copied from the opponent, steal it. So you need to have this in play. So that's 3 mana spent because this does not live.
Yeah. This is marked for death as soon as it hits the board.
Yeah. This is going to be a Hook Tusk level mana investment, right? I imagine it's going to be pretty similar to you have to copy the cards ahead of time, and then you have to do you have to spend a bunch of mana all at once in a Hook Tusk level turn, 8 mana to steal a few cards. I think that's probably
or Elucia before it was reworked. It's kind of similar to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so you, in a sense, that means a lot of things that you'd be really upset to lose are a bit protected because your Carriels, your Hook Tusk, any of your 8 mana plus things, they're not going to be able to play in the same turn as this unless there's some mana discounting, which, as far as we know, Priest is not going to have access to.
Unless they get your relics that can discount it.
Sure. But then, you know, they still have to pay the 3 mana tax to do this, and so you'll at least have a turn to kill this if they want to do any of the really expensive stuff. But it'll still be annoying if they take 5s or like a bunch of cheap things or whatever. But yeah, I have hope that most of the things that I would super care about are going to be challenging. But if you're playing a class with a 6 mana hero, be prepared.
Yeah, I mean, this is a card that people are going to put in their decks when they're super tilted, because they're tired of losing to the thing and they're going to try to steal the thing, right? And it'll be a fun card. Hopefully, I also, as much as I enjoy playing these types of priest decks, I hope it's not a good card. Will any of this prevent me from crafting this in Golden? No, it will not. I will 100% craft this in Golden because that's just the kind of degenerate I am on ladder. But yeah, I mean, it would have to be like Wild Paw Knoll level good, and maybe it could be. I mean, Reconnaissance is a card that they printed, maybe for Thief Rogue, maybe something along the lines of like something like a Reconnaissance or a Jackpot with a, you know, you'd have to throw in like, you know, like that whole package with like the Jackpot Rogue. I could see them putting together a bunch of janky stuff that is enough to steal games, but not enough to win games, enough to be 50%. And it's possible they could push it too far and get it over the line.
I mean, I almost feel like the thing that makes it best is if you do some kind of thought steely type effect and you get a bunch of cheap things and then you just steal cards from their deck so that like
They just fatigue them.
what? Or just, yeah, kind of, or just if it's in hand, especially if it's in hand, absolutely, because you make them discard. And there are minimal ways to make people discard in Hearthstone. But let me tell you, the games where you get like triple, quadruple mutinist from a shaman right now, those feel rough. You don't always lose, but yeah, I mean, the times that discard to an opponent actually happens are jarring in Hearthstone because it's just not an effect we're accustomed to.
Yeah, it feels terrible. And it's like, and the effect the benefit from this card is not in whatever you steal, it's in tilting your opponent as it's happening. That is
Or taking it.
100% the value from that, right? Like that is, and that's always been the case with decks like this. So, you know, I mean, there's some people and you know, Sidisi and I have had this kind of debate a few times because he, you know, over Thoughtsteal, and I'm like, look, Thoughtsteal is a card that you play when it's a 4-set meta and there's nothing better to do because the opponent's cards are better than your cards. So they're going to have to make it. Priest is not in that spot right now. So it's going to have to be a, you know, some sort of value proposition that's better than I'm just going to play my opponent's cards. My opponent has better cards than mine in order to get this to see play right now, which is a little bit spooky when we think about what they'd have to do to get that to happen. But we'll see.
There's a card in Runeterra where it's whenever you steal a card from their deck, reduce its cost by 1, and then as a battle cry, if you've damaged them this turn, you steal 1. That's the kind of thing that would make this viable, and I hope they don't do that. But
I mean, they made that a keyword in Runeterra. Like, I mean, not that that's a high bar for Runeterra to make something a keyword, but they made NAB a keyword.
It's something that happened once. Oh, it's a keyword now. Yeah, but well, and they also had to rework the keyword. It used to say from the top of the opponent's deck, and now it says from the bottom. No functional change, but people stopped complaining about it as much on Reddit as soon as they just changed the word. Because human psychology. Yep. Anyways, well, that's Priest. By the way, speaking of 3-mana 4/3s that disrupt the opponent, hey, there's a rogue card, Gas the Gravedigger. 3-mana 4/3 battlecry. If you control a secret, choose a card in your opponent's hand to shuffle into their deck. Oh, a lot going on here. So, secret. Which means, since there are no rogue secrets in Standard, that means there are going to be at least 2 in this set, probably 3, because every other time they printed rogue secrets, they've done 3. Because it has to be, you know, a secret. Historically speaking, the rogue secrets are good because they're good value. You don't care if they know. You just want to activate your center and draw 2 cards. Ambush and Boozle, whatever, are like, there was some play there. This does.
I mean, Dirty Tricks would draw you cards. That was the reason.
Right. So we just played Dirty. Yeah. Garrote Rogue played Dirty Tricks at first because it was 2 mana draw 2. Like it's you don't care if they know. Just give me the cards. You can know. Yeah. I'll play it face up if I have to. But Gas the Gravedigger indicates that the set will have 4 to 5 secret cards, probably 5 secret cards in the rogue set. And we've seen 3 other rogue cards, which means there are only 2 for miracle support, so I hope they're good. But choose a card in your opponent's hand to shuffle into their deck. It is 3-card choice, like Discover. It isn't Discover, because Discover means you get the thing you pick somehow. Discover always adds value to you, so it's not Discover. But it is 3 cards, not their whole hand. Just 3 cards.
Yeah. This was a debate in Discord today because Star Student Stelina is a similar effect. This is basically what it is. It's Star Student Stelina, but Star Student Stelina actually says on the card, look at 3 cards in your opponent's hand, shuffle 1 into their deck. So we've heard that this is worded differently for text box space reasons, but it's unfortunately adding a little bit of confusion to how it works.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it is the same card. Turns out was not a good enough effect to be on a legendary. Maybe it does better as an epic, as a 2-of.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe the Outcast was the thing as well.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think that was one thing, at least. Like, you wouldn't run it just because, like, you would have to hold it for a particular time, and you don't want to have cards that you're holding for a while, especially in Outcast position in Demon Hunter, especially when Skull was still around. Because, like, if you couldn't play a Skull because you had a Stelina clogging that up, right? Or you couldn't play, like, a Spectral Sight or something, then it's just like, well, why am I running this card situationally when I could just be playing anything else? So I don't know if that's enough of a difference. And like, it's also dependent on how good the secrets are. Like, if the secrets are amazing, you'll probably just play this because you can. If the secrets are meh, then, you know, how valuable is this effect? Certainly it's not going to be more than situationally. But also Rogue has Shadow Step, right? Yeah. And so, like, if you can just send, you know, 2 or 3 cards back into your opponent's hand, that's a little bit more powerful because you're just removing a lot of their options, especially if they don't have a lot of cards late in the game.
Yeah, I was going to say, you said back into their hand. It's from
Or
their
their
hand
deck.
back into
Yeah,
their deck.
their deck, I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I just said about discard being jarring in Hearthstone, because there's not that much of it, there is now a lot more.
Yeah.
Because assuming secrets are worth playing, this is a powerful effect. In Rogue, specifically. Because of Shadow Step and potential for maybe anything else that bounces stuff, right? Scabs, what have you. This effect, Rogue is all about, I just need to stop you for a little bit. I just want to mess you up for a little bit because then I'm going to kill you. So this kind of effect strikes me as something that could be quite powerful in a rogue that's just like, oh, that answer that you had, nope, get rid of that. And now you can't clear my board. And it's just enough time that all my things are able to hit you once. And you're dead now.
It's fine. It's
It's not incredible. Again, it totally
Yeah.
depends on how good the secrets are.
I
know,
did my
I'm-
something earlier in the day, and I've come to terms with it, and I agree that it's not. Again, it's going to depend on how good the secrets are. That is it. Are you going to want? And even if they're amazing, right? You may still not want to run this, right? Because it's still a 3-mana 4/3 that sometimes will do something, but you have to have the secret in play. You probably need to play the secret that turn, because if they proc it, then this just sits in your hand. It's still somewhat conditional that way.
I'm talking about my mood. It's okay. It's so okay. Yes, Rogue, keeping you off balance by disrupting what you're doing long enough for me to kill you, sure. I don't want that. I want the Rogue that doesn't care what you have because I kill you anyway. That's what I'm looking for. This is making me care about your stuff. I don't want to care. I don't care. I care about your life total and then it going away. That's why I like Necrolord Draka, the 4-mana 3/4, the legendary, that equips a 1/3 dagger as a battle cry with +1 attack for each other card you played this turn. This is a butt ton of damage. You play 3 other cards along this turn, that's 12. That's a lot. I like that. Want to do that. I don't want to play secrets. I want to play cards that do stuff. Secrets wait for you to do stuff. I don't want to wait. I'm impatient. I want to do stuff now. So, secret into hand disruption. Like, I get that it is kind of sort of roguey, but I want to do more Sinstone Graveyard stuff. I want to do Draka stuff. I want to do Door of Shadow stuff. Like, I'll figure out the secret thing if it ends up being good.
I don't think those are mutually exclusive because all the secrets are 2 mana, which is precisely the amount that prep does. So I wouldn't be surprised if the secrets are any good to see people doing a lot of prep secret graveyard, prep secret Draka, that kind of stuff.
As long as you don't have 2 of the same secret in your hand to keep that from happening. But I mean,
But
also,
what if it was Swindle? What if it was
Well, we don't
Swindle
have Swindle.
instead? I know, Steve. I know I don't have Swindle. I don't want to
Because
secret.
Garrote exists, Hat. We can't have those things.
look, I mean, I think the point is, Hat, that you're not a jackpot gamer, right?
It's-
Like, I feel like the jackpot gamers who enjoy Rogue to play jackpot, they're gonna love the they're going to
They're gonna love
the-
Harvester
the
of
secret
Envy
one.
because they're blurring
yeah.
that line between Priest and Rogue every
Well-
single day. And
No,
those
they're not
jackpot
allowed to
gamers.
play. They're not allowed to play my cards. Let's not go there. But you know, they're gonna be into disruption. They don't necessarily care about killing somebody quickly. They want to tilt their opponent and just generate a bunch of nonsense and live
Yeah.
on the edge, right?
These
So,
these
like,
were
then they'll-
gang
then
up
they'll
no
play
rogue
this.
gamers
Yeah.
back in the day. I understand.
Yeah.
I'm
So
just saying.
I understand that it's not appealing to you. I think there will be a subset of people who will do that. I'm hoping that makes their decks work, so they will stop playing those decks at the ranks that I play at. But you know, that has not since been the case. So you know, it seems like Rogue can get away with, you know, playing some of that jank and still kind of get there.
I would like to call out an excellent pun from this chatter, Bodicus from chat.
That name sounds familiar.
Edwin Van Cleaver.
Mm.
I like that. I enjoy that. So this Draka and Sinstone Graveyard, these are the kind of rogues I want to play. I will begrudgingly play with secrets if I can prep them out and they're solid and there's a payoff that isn't a 3-mana 4/3 that makes me look at their hand and worry about it, then sure. But I want 1-mana things and draw spells. I will also accept damage. Damage good.
I guess the question with Draka is like, what point do you need to get it to just not play Swordfish, right? Because like Swordfish, you have to get it better than that, right? Because
We don't.
Swordfish
I don't
is-
want to play pirates.
No.
I'm uninterested in
Yeah.
playing pirates. Swordfish does not see play in standard right now.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like it's because you need to get it to high enough damage for it to matter, right? Like you're not playing like one card ahead of this and getting like a
You're-
2/3 weapon.
You're thinking too hard about this, Steve.
It's if this is a 3/3
It's really high
and I don't.
tempo.
If this is a 3/3 and I don't have to play stupid pirates, then I'm happy. If it's bigger
Okay.
than that, then I'm happier. But we get to Shadow Step this and do it again. I don't got to worry about that. I play a 3/4 and I hit him in the face.
Shadow Step is a. Can we
Then
get
I
rid of
run
Shadow
this
Step already?
If you coin it on 3, you get a 2/3 weapon, which is better than your hero power. So you don't have to hero power for a few turns, and if they don't kill it, yeah, you get to Shadow Step it and make it even bigger later on. So it's just good tempo, right? This is one of those solid, just rogue legendary that you can put in whatever because it's a really good rate. So I think it's a distraction to think about, oh, we put poisons on the dagger,
Oh,
or
no,
we
you're not
really
doing
want to
that.
make the weapon big. Like, you don't need all that. You play Draka, and as long as you can play 1 to 2 other cards in the same turn, it's a good value.
Yeah. I'll also point out that Liga is in the chat. Asked Wicked good
We'll-
about
yeah.
Pirates seeing play. We'll get to that in the Coin Concedes.
We'll get
I
to
saw.
that. Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, this is the kind of rogue card that I want, because Swordfish, I have to put a bunch of crap pirates in my deck. With this, I have to play the cards that I already want to play, which are cheap rogue cards that let me play other cheap rogue cards. Let's do that. I want to do that and stab people afterwards. It's everything I want. It's cheap rogue cards and stabbing. It's fantastic. Yeah. Anyways, we've got a shaman card and then 5 warlock cards, but really just one group of warlock cards.
Yeah.
So, the Shaman card, the Stone Right, 4 mana, 5/4, legendary. Battle cry: for the rest of the game, your totems have +2 attack. Alright.
For me, this is like Steward. I think I'm fine just putting this in a Shaman because it upgrades the hero power. I don't think it's quite as good as Steward because that one is a little bit easier to just sort of slip in, right? 3/3, played on curve. That is a death rattle, not a battle cry, though. So that can be silenced, gotten rid of. People can blow up the chain. Whereas this one, it's just there for the rest of the game. Your totems just have +2 attack. And if you manage to double this battle cry, that your totems just have +4 attack. That can be off your hero power, which I think is totally reasonable, even if you have no other totems except Amalgam. Your Amalgams are now 2 mana 4/3s, and your hero powers are 2/2s or 3/1. But yeah, if we do see, and I expect we will, based on this legendary, some additional totem support. We did get a totem in the last set, the one that's whenever you play a 1 mana minion, which your totems are 1 mana minions.
It's
so
a summon,
maybe-
I believe, not play. So yeah,
Correct.
so
Yes,
the hero power
true,
works
true,
too.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, we assumed that was with piranhas, right? Because those
Yeah.
were 1 mana, and that was like the thing then. But if there's a sous chef equivalent for totems, right, that gives them to your hand, they're going to cost 1 mana, and it could also work with that.
It
So-
doesn't count if they come out of your hero power?
Oh, it
They're
does.
1
It
mana.
does.
Yeah, they're 1 mana, so
Yeah,
they would still get buffed, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just saying like additional things.
Yeah.
If there's other stuff that summons basic totems, right? Those are gonna be 1 mana, get buffed. That's an effect that I think has been used in Wild. It is a powerful effect, giving 1 mana things. Plus, I think it was +2, +1. So yeah,
Anchor Totem is good when you get it going. It is a thing
Oh,
when
yeah.
you get it going.
So yeah, I
mean,
think this is just quality.
But what does it ask of you? It asks of you to have a hero power that's not Brukan, and to have 4 mana, and to be playing a shaman deck that wants to play battle cries and might double them sometimes. I think we can do that. I think shaman's pretty good at that. I mean, even if you don't double it, it's fine. If you do happen to, hit Yahtzee and hit a Bolner with it, right? Then the world's your oyster. Then and again, if you're summoning like a 6 attack minion every time you press your hero power, that does add up after a little while. Like your opponent still does actually have to clear them. And I mean, if you have a bunch of totems on board when you play this, then they all get the upgrade immediately and get to attack. Like, again, is it going to be the kind of thing where your opponent's going to clear all your totems, religiously to make sure that they don't get the value out of this? Probably not. But I mean, if you get to sneak in another, 4 attack from, junk that you just had from, floating mana the rest of the game, like, that's not nothing.
Yeah. I mean, this is what I was saying about I find it interesting that they are giving some synergies to the classes whose hero powers summon minions, right? For them to have reasons to have the basic hero power rather than the hero card. That probably does not mean that the hero cards are not going to be played, right? Because there's going to be other ways of making silver hands or totems. But I think it's nice to have that tension. And then once the hero cards do go away, we'll still have these and be able to have better hero powers.
And it's also the way that you maybe incentivize players to not put in Brucon or Carriel into their deck. I think that's unlikely. But if you're all in on totems, do you want to play Brucon? Maybe you don't, right? Because there hasn't been very much that's gotten anyone to take Brucon or Carriel out of their deck up to now, right? So the way that you're going to do that is by making the hero power matter more without, explicitly putting like Inspire on it.
The hero power is never, +2 attack is never winning the hero power around turn 8. Like, it's just not happening. I think the hero cards are just such an appealing backup plan because they're when your hero power isn't going to cut it. A 2/2 totem is not going to win you the game where a 0/2 totem wouldn't. We'll just take the Fireball. The Fireball is fine. We'll start there and see what happens.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
Another thing is that once those hero cards rotate, we will get a new core where they could potentially say, hey, you know what? Totem Shaman and Silverhand Pally didn't work out even with the cards we gave them. What if we threw them a little more love in core so that they can get some play before they end up rotating out? I think that's something like really cool about core is that the devs can decide after a couple months of seeing things get played out in the stuff that exists currently and say, you know what? They didn't really get to shine. They weren't quite strong enough. We can maybe add a few things from core to support that archetype before it rotates.
All right. We have a lot more cards. Okay. It's Warlock time. The neutrals, we're going to do a lightning round in the neutrals.
We didn't talk about Evolve.
We did last week. Oh, Convincing Disguise. We didn't talk about Convincing Disguise. 1 mana, transform a friendly minion to one that costs 2 more. Infuse 4, transform all friendly minions instead. So single target, but if 4 things die, then it's full board and it's evolved by 2 mana, not by 1.
Sure.
Probably solid.
It
Tiny
looks like
Toys
an
is a
evolve card. Yeah, it's...
Yeah.
The Infuse 4 in an Evolve deck, I think, is kind of a big ask, but Schooling and Goldshire Knoll are already in this deck. Because if you're on the coin, and you're Schooling on 1, then you Knoll coin Convincing Disguise on 2. I don't think there are any 12s in Standard, so you'll just have to settle for a 10-drop. That is a high roll, but it happens with 3 cards. Goldshire Knoll, Schooling, and this, or Muck Pools, which also works.
Yeah, and you'll probably you're still running Wildpaw Cavern. Right, like that. You might run Command of Neptulon. That's 2 minions for 1 later, right? So there's plenty. Like you still have a hero power even if you flip to Brucon. You still have a hero power that gives you 2/2/3 sometimes. You'll get there. I'm not really worried about Shaman getting to Infuse 4. That doesn't seem like a high bar.
Yeah, I think the
but it's
funniest thing about
slower.
Evolve Shaman is gonna be seeing it get frozen by other shamans.
Yes, and so the thing about Infuse 4 here. What they're trying to do with Evolve is make it slower and trying to make it less lethal when they do it. Primordial Wave will never result in attacking for lethal. Baroness Vage makes 5s or 6s, but that's it. And then Convincing Disguise is single target unless you wait till later in the game. So at least this is going to be slower and not turn 3 Alakir. I hope, except for the high roll that I just described, which is turn 2. Can't win them all.
Yeah.
But it does seem like they're trying to slow it down a little bit, even though people obviously love Evolve, but a mid-game thing that happens here and there.
Yeah,
I don't know.
and
People
it's,
are doing-
it's not happening on 2 turns consecutively every time, right?
Correct.
Like that was always the problem with the weapon, is that if you didn't clear the board, then you knew they were doing it again the next turn. Like this, they do it once and then it's gone.
Yeah. If the scariest thing is Tiny Toys convincing disguise, I'm probably okay.
Yeah, I think we could deal with that.
Yeah.
So, imps. Okay, we've got 5 imp cards because this is a thing. This is a thing together. The imp cards. So we'll start with Impending Catastrophe. 2 mana shadow spell, epic. Draw a card, repeat for each imp you control. You always draw at least 1. The flavor text is important to read. The imps end you, and the cats, well, they astrophy.
Oh,
I liked this flavor text a lot. No, I did not write it, but I'm proud of whoever did. So, draw a card, repeat for each imp you control. Flustered Librarian. 1 mana, 1/3, has +1 attack for each imp you control. The flavor text, a fairly simple card. Hearthstone did this, not me. I'm just reading from the website. So this is not a permanent +1 attack every time you play an imp. It floats based on how many imps you have at the current moment. Vile Library. Give a friendly minion +1/+1. Repeat for each imp you controls. 2 mana location, 2 durability. So, for example, if you play Library on 2 and Fiendish Circle on 3, which summons 4 imps, then you use Vile Library, then you have a 6/6 along with your 3 other 1/1s. Because it does base +1/+1, then counts for each other imp you control. Mischievous Imp. 4 mana 3/3. Demon. Battlecry, summon a copy of this. Infuse 3, summon 2 copies instead. And finally, Imp King Rafam. A 6 mana 6/6. Battlecry, resurrect 4 friendly imps. Infuse 5, give your imps +2/+2. Which means that if Imp King Rafam summons 4 1/1 imps, then you have made 18/18 in stats in 1 card. Because it's a 6/6 and 4 3/3s. Keep in mind also, this standard has Shady Bartender in it. Very important. Also, worth noting, Imp is not a minion type, but there are a bunch of minions that don't have Imp in the name that are imps, and you just kind of have to know it. There are only 2 in Standard that you'll have to worry about. There's a 3rd that's a bug, but they're going to fix it, so whatever.
it's not a bug, it's a Murloc.
Correct, it's both. It's a bug that a Murloc is considered an imp. Tiny Knight of Evil is an imp. That's a core card. And then there is Dark Alley Pact makes an imp. The thing that it makes, the fiend, is an imp. So that's the 4 mana spell that counts your hand size. So that's actually a pretty big imp to bring back. If you're playing...
Are the things that come out of Tamsin, are those imps too?
Those are imps, but they're named imps.
Okay.
So I'm just talking about imps that are not
Yeah.
named imp. But there are only 2 in Standard. There are some in Wild. Street Trickster, Unlicensed Apothecary, Sneaky Devil, Rusted Devil, Envoy, Rustwix, Ring Matron, Vulgar Homunculus, Demonizer. Also worth noting that Imprisoned Homunculus does say imp in the name, but not where you'd think. But it does start with the word imp, even though it's called a homunculus. Yeah. Anyways, so we've got a draw spell, a buffer, a payoff 1 mana minion, a board in a box, and a bigger board with a buff in a box. Say that 5 times fast. This appears to be a deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've been having a lot of people who've been asking for Zoo for a while.
Hi, Mad at Arms. Hi.
Yeah, so there you go.
Well, and I actually imagine a couple ways you could try this. There's the zoo thing, right, where you're playing a bunch of imps on curve. Of course, Flame Imp, the classic. Wicked Shipment, which you can decide whether you just play it 1 mana for 2 1/1s or trade it so you get more later. Fiendish Circle gives you 4. Imp Swarm gives you 3 2s, but it gives you more of them if it's ranked up. So you can go that route. I think there's also an interesting thing where maybe you go a little slower, a little mid-rangey. You've got Dreadlich Tamsin in there because those are imps. And then you've got a hero power that draws you a card and gives you a maybe imp later in the game. Infestation summon a 3/3 Dread Imp to attack each enemy minion. It gives you some swing back, right, to trade into their stuff. Any value trades, you keep the stuff in play. Any ones that don't value trade, they still die, so that could be an instant you've infused Imp King Rafam. So you do a clear, and then you play Rafam to have a sudden board. We still have, you might have mentioned it, but there's the 5-drop that buffs all your demons. The imps are always demons.
Shady Bartender. Yep.
Shady Bartender. Yeah. So like this feels pretty real to me. I will have to see. Again, Snowfall Guardian is just the boogeyman in terms of board stuff hanging out, but
I mean, you can
yeah,
starfish your
there's a
own
lot of
stuff
draw and a
here,
lot of
and it's
stats here.
not terrible. Like,
yeah.
it silenced off the Rafam buff and the Shady Bartender buff and the Library buff, but most of your minions are just going wide over and over again. You're probably okay with starfishing your own stuff here if you have to, which we hopefully don't have to. But this is how you make a minion-based deck with no burst from hand viable. You give it stuff. You give it card draw and stats and boards, because the thing that matters more than anything is damage from hand. So if you don't do that, you can crank up all the other knobs pretty hard, because then at a certain point, you're just going to get cleared and it won't matter at all. So this at least lets the deck compete somehow. And I think that there's a lot of potential to do a lot of damage really quickly here and play 1-drops again. Thank goodness.
And this isn't necessarily linear, right? Because like there's a world in which you care about which imps get resurrected, and you just run like 2 copies of Dark Alley Pact and maybe a couple of other imps that are larger, and just say when I summon Rafam, I'm gonna get 2 to 4 big boys up on the board, and make that board as tall as possible in something like a control warlock. I don't know if that's good enough, but typically when you get like resurrect 4 of anything, often you start trying to think about what happens if I curate those. And if the what's coming off the Dark Alley Pact is an imp, that's a line you could go down.
I think in that case though, you're not getting the infuse. And I'd rather just push the infuse, because then I don't have to care, because the stats are baked into Rafam. Because otherwise I have to do whatever else, and then Rafam has to be following up other specific prescribed plays. Whereas if you infuse it, it can be whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but I mean, it's also
there.
isn't going to care if you top deck it, right? Like that's the flip side of it. You can just drop it whenever.
Yeah, sure. Suppose that's true.
I think this continues as well with their trend of some of these aggressive decks just having endless boards. We saw this with Mech Mage, with Mech Paladin, where even if you're a control deck, like you needed some kind of swing, because if you just cleared the board, they were going to have more stuff. And that is definitely true in this case. I mean, Warlock already has the hero power, but then to also have Impending Catastrophe, I think there's going to be times where like you have Impending Catastrophe and Mischievous Imp, and you just like play Mischievous Imp infused, play Impending Catastrophe, draw 4 cards, and then it gives you maybe some rifts off your Tamsin hero powers from before. And like the boards are just gonna keep coming. And then you don't actually have to play the bartender until they're dead.
Yeah. All right. We only have neutrals left. So, this is the lightning round. We each get 1 sentence per card. You get 1 sentence. I'm going to read the card. We're going to go. Let's go. Sin-Fueled Golem. 7 mana, 2/2 epic. Infuse 3. Gain stats equal to the attack of the minions that infuse this. So, the attack is the only thing that matters, and it's symmetrical buff. So, if a Hydraldan had 3/1, it's +3/+3 to this minion. So, 3 Hydraldan heads would make this an 11/11, for example. 1 sentence. Let's go.
Isle of Stats.
Drew a card, maybe.
No keywords, no thanks. Moving on. We have Dispossessed Soul, 4 mana, 4/5, neutral. Battlecry, if you control a location, discover a copy of a card in your deck.
I think this card gets way more interesting based on the fact that locations are going to appear in future sets. So once we have more than just one location per class, this gets more successful, and being able to neutral, get a copy of something, discover a card, pretty good.
Run on sentence, I'll allow it. Steve?
Sorry.
Discover from your deck is powerful, but you're probably not going to have room for this in most decks.
It's a Yeti, I'm good. Moving on. Demolition Renovator, 4 mana, 4/4 Battlecry, destroy an enemy location. Epic.
Acidic Swamp Realtor.
Heh.
Yeah, it's a necessary evil.
It is not necessary in your day one deck list, but you can tell they made this card when they were designing Stormwind because every card has to have an answer no matter how bad it is, and this is pushing the limits of how bad it can be. So, don't run it, but some people will. So be prepared on day one. Starfish is a better day one card. Did we talk about Red Herring yet? Did we do that last week?
No, that was revealed this week.
This is going to need more than one
exciting.
sentence. This is going to need more than one sentence. We're expanding the limit of how much we can talk because Red Herring is fascinating. 7 mana, 3/12.
Lightning Round was the real red herring.
Yeah, look at you. 7 mana, 3/12. Beast. Taunt. Your non-red herring minions have stealth. That is an aura, not a battle cry. It is permanent while this is in play, which won't be very long because the only thing they can target or attack while red herring's in play. Thoughts?
But it's also got 12 butt. That's a lot of butt.
And is a beast. Hi, Hunter.
And then you just play Pelagos, and then you play a spell on it, and then you win the game.
This lets you dictate your opponent's attack order, which I think is pretty cool. Like if you have a mountain bear in play and a red herring, they have to kill the red herring first before they can even see the mountain bear. It lets you guide emergency maneuvers very specifically. It gives your other minions perma-stealth. If you harpoon gun into this on 4, and then gangster mount on 5, gangster mount with perma-stealth. I'm just saying. You can hide things. You can hide something with a ramming mount behind the red herring, and they can't even target it. There's got to be something there. There's got to be something.
Yeah. But I mean, it's also cost 7 mana, so maybe in Druid.
No, it costs 4. Harpoon gun.
4.
With Harpoon gun.
Steve, you have played against Hunters. You know they have it on 3. Come on.
I mean, I guess Sunken Saver summons it.
It does. It absolutely does. Yeah. I think this card is interesting. I think it's going to see some play. I don't know if it'll deserve to see play, but I think it's going to see some play. It's a funky card. We haven't seen this effect before, and I think it's cool they're trying it. And also the flavor's super on point.
I mean, we've seen Ropes of Protection, right? Like, that's been a card that's been used in specific metas, and it's been relevant.
And is much easier to kill.
Yeah.
Yep. It's cool. Also 12 health a lot. All right, Insatiable Devourer. We're back to the lightning round. 9 mana, 4/4. Epic. Battlecry, devour an enemy minion and gain its stats. Infuse 5, also eat the neighbors of that minion. Devour is the same thing as Destroy. It triggers death rattles. It doesn't silence the minion. It doesn't poof the minion. It's just the same as Destroy, just more flavorful.
It's Abominable Lieutenant, but you get to target it.
Yep, correct. And the
Druid will
original
choose if it wants-
translation of the name was Greedy Swallower, which is much funnier.
Yeah, I think this is sort of a, do I want Snowball in Lieutenant but random, or do I want targeted and sometimes clears a bunch of stuff? And because of Scales of Onyxia, you can totally infuse this no problem. So most spooked in Druid, otherwise crazy arena card.
Yep. Druid got AoE removal. Yay.
So, in addition to these cards, there's more. Because there's an arena reveal stream. We're going to do a lightning round.
I thought we were going to talk about these next week.
Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water.
Nope. We're going to move fast. We're going to move fast here, okay? But I at least want to get initial thoughts. If you don't have initial impressions, we can just move to the next one. They're mostly arena cards, but there are a couple really cool ones. Famished
Instant
Fool.
reactions.
Famished Fool. 3 mana, 3/5. Battlecry. Draw a card. Infuse 4. Draw 3 instead. 5 mana, 3/5. Draw a card.
Neutral?
Infuse 4. Draw 3. Neutral. Yes. Costs 5. So, no.
I mean, you could just play multicaster, right? Like,
Well, but the multicaster is for decks that run spells. So this is
this is multicast per minion deck. Yeah.
No, this is the Murloc thing for a non-Murloc minion deck.
Yeah.
This is Ravager for a non-Murloc minion deck.
But infuse 4, I'm good. No way.
Well,
I
but
mean, Beast Druid maybe. Oh, you have composting though.
It's
You have to
don't
have
know,
this in
it's-
hand, and then have 4 things die, and then play a 5 mana 3/5. You're gonna do
yeah. I guess
that?
Ravager you can top deck. This you can't really top deck.
You can
I don't know.
Clownfish a Ravager.
I think it's yeah. I mean, not in Warlock, but yeah. I think this is something that is interesting for your, Silverhand Recruit Pallies, and Warlock won't need it, but, go wide decks. I think it's interesting. But yeah, I don't know how great it's really going to be. But they're giving us a lot more draw options, particularly in neutral. So I think it's worth a shot, and I'm glad that they gave us something besides include these spells to do multicaster.
I'm somewhat unconvinced here, but hey, whatever. Alright, Spirit Poacher, this one is cool. It's a 2-mana 2/2 Hunter card. Battlecry, summon a random dormant Wild Seed. The Wild Seeds, there are 3 of them. There's a 1-mana Beast, a 3/1. It is dormant for 1 turn. It has Rush. There is a Bear Spirit, is a 2/5. It is dormant for 2 turns. It has Taunts. And there is a 3-mana Stag Spirit, dormant for 3 turns. It's a 5/4. When it awakens, equip a 4/2 Great Bow. So you get 1 of 3 random seeds. You either get the little one, which wakes up next turn and rushes, the medium one, which wakes up in 2 turns and taunts, or the big one, which wakes up in 3 turns and gives you a 4/2 Great Bow. It's random which one you summon. They're immediately dormant. You get the 2-mana 2/2 right away. And then you get the Spirit in 1, 2, or 3 turns. Cool as hell.
Yeah, I can see you running this in Face Hunter.
I mean,
you get the 2/2 now, and you get a minion for later for free.
It's pretty value intensive for Face Hunter, maybe, but it's very powerful.
I mean, and if you need infuses to happen, here you go, 2 minions. There you go, 2 in 1.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
just
I think it's pretty
trying
cool.
to find a visual because words do not.
Oh,
I
here
am
I can.
trying to-
Here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Here, I got you.
They're in CC.
There you
For
go.
some reason, my browser capture is not doing what I want it to do.
It's a Hearthstone Top Decks has it.
Let's see here.
Random is weird, but they're all pretty good.
I mean, we ran in Prison Fellhound, right? Like, and these are not Fellhound, but like, they're still all fine, and you get the 2/2 for now, so it's not like you're even like
What, are
paying
you
2 mana to
comparing
do
this to
nothing.
Felma? This ain't Felma.
Felma, sorry,
This is not.
it's not
Yeah.
Felma, but I mean, it is a bunch of stats, right?
It's
like
it's so
it's across 2
variable.
bodies.
It's so variable, but it's a ton of value for 2 mana. So, I envision it
Yeah.
seeing play, but this doesn't make me want to play something aggressive necessarily. It makes me want to play something that's intending for the game to go a little longer. I don't want the game to be over quickly if I'm playing this card, because then the thing doesn't wake up or I can't dictate what's going to happen. But it's a lot of value for a 2-drop.
I mean, it's really only the middle one that's bad, right? Like, if you have to wait 3 turns, but you get a 5/4 and a 4/2 weapon, like, I think that's that's fine.
This will probably see play. I'm surprised there's an
Yeah.
arena reveal. It seems a little better than arena.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like an arena card.
Well, no, it seems
I
like a
think-
very
yeah.
good arena card. Probably too good.
Yeah, I think as you say, it's just so much value. I think even in a face deck, it's something to do on 2 that gives you something else, and I don't know. And they're beasts.
Yeah, I played worse
So
2-drops.
Yeah.
All right,
I mean,
we've got...
if you imagine you get the bear and you give it rush and +2 attack with the
Could
location.
yeah, with the location actually makes it kind of crazy. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm interested. Sin Runner. This is a neutral 5-mana 6/5 beast. Death Rattle. Destroy a random enemy minion. Probably not in standard.
I I might conditionally want to run that in Quest Priest. It's a 5.
It is a
You don't have that
5.
many good 5s.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll certainly take that off of Call of Grave more
I was
more
gonna
often
say
than not.
it's
Yeah,
really
probably
good
pretty
off
good there.
Grave.
Okay. Sketchy Stranger. This is a neutral 2-mana 2/2 battlecry. Discover a secret from another class.
Oh, there it is.
So maybe they don't need to print 3 rogue secrets if they're doing this.
They're probably going to still print 3 Rogue Secrets.
I hope they just do 2 and that this card counts.
Oh man, I can play Secrets in in Quest Priest? Let's
Rogue is
go.
still Rogue. Oh god, Rogue is still probably the thing that likes this the most.
I don't feel good.
That's
move
2
on.
out of 2. That goes right in the deck.
Steve's too happy. Let's move on right now.
It's
I don't
2
want to.
mana and probably gives you a 3 if you get a mage secret.
So Forensic Duster, 3 mana 3/4 battlecry. Your opponent's minions cost 1 more next turn.
Yeah, you kind of need this, right?
It's interesting.
Like Cult Sorcerer, but for a board-based meta. Yeah, I can see it. And it doesn't say cannot cost more than 10.
It
So,
doesn't.
you know, I mean, I don't know how often that's going to be relevant, but
Druid has 11
if
anyways.
if somebody's trying to play Denathrius in a non-Druid
Oh,
deck,
wait a minute. If they Celestial Alignment you, and then you slam Duster,
get wrecked.
nice Anacondra, idiot. Then they nourish, and then they play her anyways, and then you lose. But
Yeah.
I had a moment. It's fine. All right. Next card. Frenzied Fangs. This is a hunter spell. 2 mana, summon 2 2/1 bats. Infuse 3. Give them +1/+2, so that you summon 3 3s instead. So 2 mana for 2 2/1s. If you infuse it for 3, 2 mana for 2 3/3s.
So it kind of is both ways, right? It can feed the infuse, or it can be the beneficiary.
We're playing Naga's Pride right now. And it's a mana cheaper, and it's either on par, but without needing to play a specific minion type, or it's smaller, but a turn faster. Yeah. This absolutely goes in Face Hunter.
Yeah.
And this makes me more interested in that 4 mana cleave dude, right? Because it is early game support that also incentivizes infuse. So yeah, like you totally would just play it on curve, and then you've got your cleaver ready on 4. And then if you don't want to play it on curve, you can another way of getting 3 3s that doesn't require you to run Nagas. Like this just feels way easier than than the Naga one.
All right.
I kind of want to play on Seal the Vault in Wild now.
Moving right along. Batty Guest. Hunter. 1 mana, 1/1. Death Rattle. Summon a 2/1 bat.
Yeah.
Possessed
Sure.
villager, but bigger. And the bat is a beast. Okay.
If you need infuse, you'll play this. And I mean, this is fine for Face Hunter, right? A 1/1 that drops a 2/1, you'll take it.
The upfront
Sticky
body
is
bad.
good for Biscuit.
Yeah, very good with Biscuit. Very, very good with Biscuit. Yeah.
Better for cinnamon rolls, but yes.
Muckborn Servant, 3 mana 2/4 Paladin card. Taunt, Battlecry, discover a Paladin card. I don't know when we would play this.
You play it in Holy Paladin, maybe?
No, you would not.
I mean, you
Absolutely
play
not.
You play the one that discovers a holy spell now.
This is a Paladin card. That is so much worse than a holy spell.
Yeah, next 4-set meta, you might play it.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe in a pure Paladin deck. Anyways.
I mean, it's
Bog,
an arena reveal, right? So, like, in arena, you'd play that.
they can't all be winners.
Yes.
Bog Beast, 6 mana 3/6 Taunt. Death Rattle, summon a 2/4 with Taunt. Okay? Taunt. We're taunting. Moving on.
It's just slightly different from Sludge Belcher.
Yeah.
Right.
We have our second Druid card of the set. Natural Causes. 2 mana, Nature Spell. Deal 2 damage, summon a 2/2 Treant.
Solid.
Okay. Good card.
Yep. Particularly for the nature token druid.
And it goes face.
It does. Yeah, it does. Deal 2, make a 2/2. Okay. I'm down. I'm here for it. I'm about it. Maze Guide. Neutral, common, 2 mana, 1/1 battle cry, summon a random 2-cost minion. Faceless Lackey. But you can put it in your deck now. Don't know why you would.
But if you just want butts on board, right? If you want tokens to do tokeny things, then maybe you play this.
Yeah, it's this one's solid arena.
Sometimes you'll get Doomsayered, and then you'll end up on Trollden. That's value.
There are more cards coming out as we talk, so we're going to talk faster so we can get ahead of them so we can end the show. But the cards are exciting. Okay, we have two more cards.
Will never end.
We have 2 more cards, and they're both good. There's a Demon Hunter common, Bibliomite, 2 mana, 4/4. Battle cry, choose a card in your own hand to shuffle into your deck.
Okay, you do need this. Yeah, because if you're ever going to play Quest Demon Hunter, you need something like this, right? Because you want to be able to discount it later. This is what we lost when Glide rotated. So if Quest Demon Hunter is ever going to be a thing, you need a card like this.
It's a 2 mana 4/4. I don't care what kind of Demon Hunter it is. It is a 2 mana 4/4.
Like, I don't know, maybe you're just like, yeah, that Need for Greed, I was going to trade it away. Instead, I will just shuffle it for an overstated thing on 2. Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to play Need for Greed. I want to play Dimensional Rift or whatever. Dimensional Relic. But
I mean,
yes,
and you're not actually
losing
losing the card, right? Like it's like all the Disco Zoo cards, except you don't actually give up the card. You just send it back in your deck.
Well, recall as well that Outcast, sometimes you're like, hey, there's this big thing in the way of my Outcasts. And so you can play Bibliomite and say, hey, that big thing, get it out of the way.
Shuffling your Z-Lag before you carry it. Aww. Aww.
Yeah, and I mean, again, because the relics are going to discount stuff, right? Like, you want the stuff that you care about discounting in the deck. You don't want it in your hand if it has.
Now remember that whatever you shuffle back in will lose all card-specific buffs. The relic buffs are player or global, so they don't go away, like how much the relics do. But any buffs to a card in your hand, including discounts, will go away if you Bibliomite.
Yeah, so you lose the infused counter on it.
And the last card we're going to talk about today, Serrated Bone Spike. 2 mana. Deal 3 damage to a minion. If it dies, your next card this turn costs 2 less.
Oh, hat. This is what you've been waiting for.
So I'm glad we extended the stream.
You just replaced Tooth with this, right? In a lot of cases.
We're playing both.
We're
playing. We are absolutely playing both. I want a Door of Shadows into this. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no.
We're going to hit our own minion with this frequently. It's going to be rad. I don't care. I just want it is yes. Yes. I want this.
Door into this, the copy lets you
kill.
play the original.
Yeah, this does not go face, so it's very important to note.
Thank goodness.
But I'm still playing Tooth. Still playing Wicked Stab. Still playing this. Prep steps. We got a stew going. We're doing it. I'm not even going to look at Twitter to see if we have any more cards. We're going to wrap up the show now because otherwise we'll be stuck in the card review dimension forever. So
well, it's appropriate that you have a stew because then you can have it in the stew ward.
That's Paladin. Serrated Bone Spike will kill Steward, but that's kind of dark.
Rogues sneak around where they're not supposed to be. So there you go.
So I think they're actually done revealing cards. Anyways, I don't see any new ones. We're gonna get out while the getting's good. We have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website, coinconcede.com. You can find our content info, show notes, patron information. You can support our show at patreon.com/coinconcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Right into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at coinconcede. Like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/coinconcede. Like some CC swag, heading over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number Theory, DogeDK, Proby1, Crush Cap, B-Squatch, David P, Fade to Black, Walu, Jeremy T, Bottle Caps, and Lucky. This is probably the last reveal episode we'll have, because next week we should have all the cards, because the Theory Crafting streams are next Thursday the 21st, which is when our next show is. So our next show should be post-Theory Crafting stream. We should have the whole spoiler in 8 days. Pretty crazy. Thank you so much for hanging out in our extra super duper long stream. Watching the win, thanks for the raid. Smacks PW and Doshi K, thank you so much for the subs. Coin Concedes, what good? I know you have a good one.
Yeah, so I'm gonna coin concede to Liega, who is a listener. They were in chat earlier. I don't know if they still are. So I've been modding for Superior David on Friday. I convinced Superior David to play Quest Priest, which he did, and then queued into Liega, who was running Renathal Pirate Burgle Rogue. And I will spare you the details of the game, but it ended with Liega playing Hook Tusk to steal the Purified Shard and end the game by sending the shard at David with his own shard. So of course, later in the evening, I'm streaming, and I queue into Liega, who had been in my chat, and then queued into the same deck, lost, immediately asked for the code so I could send it to Hat because I knew Hat was in the middle of Asgard Hell, and I wanted him to be happy because this is like all the rogue decks rolled into one. But it was I mean, I lost to it too. I have no idea how the hell this works, but it did, and it was a lot of fun, and they were a good sport about it. So it was a fun time, both watching it with David and even losing to it was one of the more funs I had. One of the more fun games I had that night that didn't involve a turn 5 lethal with Big Priest. So
Yep. Edelweiss?
Oh, sorry, I blanked.
Okay, I'll go first. So, I'd like to coin concede to Dr. 3, who had me on last night. Finally was a really fun live episode. We talked about cards, talked about Hearthstone, interviewed me, the usual fun thing. Add another Infinity Stone to the gauntlet, but finally fun to hang out with my friends over there, especially Major Death, who was, dying on the air, but said I wouldn't miss this. I don't think that me talking is all that special. I do it all the time, but other people think it is, so really appreciate him making the effort. And I would also like to coin concede to Suspicious Alchemist, a 1-mana 1/3 mage minion. Battlecry, discover a spell. If your opponent guesses your choice, they get a copy, which could be good in Quest Mage. Edelweiss, any coin concedes? And yes, that is a real card.
Yeah, I would like to coin concede to my team captain, Tom Locke, who coordinated an effort for us to send our love to our teammate Lost, who is Ukrainian. And so we initially were going to group together to give him the bundle, and Swagoi ended up having more than both bundles. So we made a donation to an organization helping Ukraine in his name. So yeah, I just thought that was a really cool idea because it's been a while, and I know that's been in sort of the back of the news for people at this point. But I think I often, anytime I hear something, and I'm thinking of Lost, and so just coin concede to Tom Locke for making that happen.
Yeah. Also, one last coin concede. Bodicus in the chat. Miss you, buddy. Whenever you want a chair, there's right there.
I'll just shove over. I'll make room. It's okay.
In that corner of the screen, there's room for a Bodicus. Glad having you in chat, buddy. All right, that'll do it. So, keep calm and keep checking Twitter for new cards. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
Stopping recording without playing the outro. That was 2.5 hours. Edelweiss, I'm sorry. I will send you a snack or something. Wait, we gave you an extra day. It's Wednesday. You have an extra day to edit. How about that?
That's true. Yeah.
Work didn't crap the bed, so I didn't have a hard stop to speed us up. That's what happened.
There you go. Yeah, no conference calls at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Blech. But next Thursday, 7:30. If a different day is better for you, you let me know. I'm off on Wednesday. You just holla at your boy, at your boys and girl. Holla at us. It's
a valiant effort.
Right there. That's the Bodicus square. Can be right there. All right. And I'm sweaty and tired because I've had no air conditioner for 2.5 hours. We're going to bring the stream down. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here for 2.5 hours. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.